we are starting this meeting. So welcome to
a beautiful meeting in a beautiful scenario.
In a beautiful
very creative.
place.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Pavilion of Knowledge. I have to say, this is what every day should be. Scientists, artists, even policymakers together under the same roof, our roof, under our roof. Notice that our science center is called the Pavilion of Knowledge, not science. And it is on purpose. This is our mission, and this is what we love, bringing together knowledge created by citizens, policymakers, researchers, and artists. It might as well be called the Pavilion of Creativity. Indeed, Pavilion of Knowledge has worked with creative industries. We have a long history of collaboration. We have asked their collaboration. They have also seen us as partners that could open up new avenues of their work. I'll just give you a couple of examples. From 2007 to 2010, we co-organized the Art Residencies Program Experimentation, Art, Science and Technology with the Portuguese Ministry of Culture to shape a platform for work and research with scientists and artists. These projects developed at research labs throughout Portugal, using the tools and process typically of scientific research. And the artists were hosted for several months in labs in areas from robotics to sustainable development to cellular biology. There were exhibitions in different places, including here at the Pavilion of Knowledge. And many of these artists began to collaborate regularly with the host institutions in other new projects. Actually, I would like to mention Rui Horta and Simon Costa. They are here among us. And you make part of these examples of collaboration. And in 2010, we invited professionals from music, design, fashion, dance, theater, literature, even a clown, and to be directors of the Pavilion of Knowledge for the last Saturday of each month during an entire year. Also, Rui Horta was one of these directors on that time. We called this action Everything Upside Down, and today I am the boss. And these creators were fully responsible for the agenda of their days. We wanted to experiment with new curatorial skills and experiences that could be attractive to new audiences not familiar with the Science Center's normal activities. And it is important to mention that some of these invited directors later come back as members of our public board of the Pavilion of Knowledge. Now, just 1 week ago, the Pavilion of Knowledge team participated at the conference, the international conference of Excite, the meeting of European science centers and museums. It was a great event that also improved creativity. One particular talk attracted really my attention by John Falk, a leading expert in free choice learning settings like science centers are. Why do they work? how do these settings attract people to learn and get involved with research, with innovation, with science? Falk mentioned one very interesting dimension. He said, science centers give people a sense of well-being. And where does this sense of well-being come from? We can only guess. But is the calm reassurance that comes from expert knowledge, the safety from numbers? Is it the sheer beauty of physics? What about the puzzlement and the wonderment of nature? Those things we don't quite understand yet. It's impossible to say what of these factors work and how. But one thing I'm sure, if you want to expand the sense of well-being that science centers provide and thus bring more and more people to science, our ultimate goal, a good mix of calmness, puzzles, wonder and beauty will only help. And this is what you, the creative industries, creative people in general, have been working on for ages, well before science existed as a proper field. So we have to talk. Let's go. Now, it's my pleasure to invite Fátima, is Vice Rector of University of Porto. Thank you very much. And here is the floor.
Well, good afternoon. It's a great honor for me to participate in this event. Thank you very much for inviting. And I start with a question, what if? Well, you see, my main field of studies is utopian studies, and there's always an what if question at the beginning of every utopian story. So I ask, what if we construct a European cultural corridor? The question stems from a brainstorming process we started at the University of Porto, first at the local level, then at the national level, along with the Portuguese National Plan for the Arts, and finally at the international level in the framework of the EU University and Cultural Summit, which was held in March under the Portuguese Presidency of the Council of Europe. And in these events, we elaborated on a vision. We elaborated on the vision of a European Union benefiting from the energy of creative, talented, highly qualified citizens, eager to welcome the other, aware of the crucial issues of our times, trained to transgress disciplinary frontiers, to question practices and imagine new possibilities, of higher education's ecosystems capable of generating inspiration and enthusiasm for life in community, of fostering students' participation in the construction of local communities while providing space for the communities to participate in the construction of the higher education institutions. And perhaps even more important, of a higher education system that does not replicate the social and economic inequalities that dominate the world outside academia. A system that provides students with equal opportunities, not only for specialized training, but also for democratic access to culture. And so I ask the question, what if we construct a European cultural corridor? Well, allow me to share with you how I imagine this would work. Well, the cultural corridor will engage higher education institutions and non-academic cultural institutions across the European Union in the creation of a cultural network. Higher education institutions will invite local cultural institutions, and I'm referring to museums, to art galleries, to theaters, to concert venues, and other performance spaces. And they will invite them to join the corridor. And by joining the corridor, these institutions will grant holders of the European student card free access or at a very reduced price to their cultural spaces. But the cultural corridor is not just about granting free access to cultural spaces. It is, and I do believe that this makes a difference, about the establishment of a long-term commitment from both parties. I mean, the higher education institutions and cultural institutions. We will commit to working together, fine-tuning their social and cultural values. So the cultural corridor will explore different ways of developing a two-way relationship between higher education institutions and cultural institutions. So I can tell you what we are doing already at University of Porto. So besides all these contacts with the cultural institutions, based on the idea that our students need to trespass the walls of the university in order to learn, we created 4 curricular units that will be on offer next year, and they will be on offer to students of all the BA and MA courses of the university. And these 4 curricular units resulted from protocols with National Theatre São João, National Museum Soares dos Reis, our main music hall, Casa da Música, and Botanical Garden. And for a whole semester, groups of 25 students will go to these spaces. They will talk to actors and stage directors, to musicians and conductors, to visual artists and curators. And in the Botanical Garden, they will learn how to grow plants and also, of course, about the need to preserve the biodiversity of our planet. And these curricular units they have already been fully accredited by the university. They are worth 3 credits. And it is important that it is so, because it means that university acknowledges them as being as important as any other curricular units. So with the Porto Declaration on Higher Education and Culture, we invite different parties to join us in the construction of the cultural corridor. We invite higher education institutions to join this project of societal innovation, to contact local cultural institutions, to engage with them in this two-way relationship, and to post the information online on the website that is going to be created to the effect. And we invite cultural institutions to join the European corridor by granting the European student card holders free access or at a very reduced price to their cultural spaces. And we invite them and any interested parties to further challenge us with innovative ideas that may improve the cultural corridor. So the idea of the cultural corridor has been very much inspired by the belief in the transformational role of culture. And this is a belief that truly transpires from documents published by the European Commission, such as the truly inspiring New European Agenda for Culture and Strategic Plan 2020-2024, which really made me acknowledge Commissioner Maria Gabriel as a true utopian, the highest compliment I can ever pay. And that is why I now address the European Commission and will address Commissioner Maria Gabriel when she joins us later today. Because for the cultural corridor to become truly European and for the cultural corridor to become meaningful and sustainable, we need the support of the Commission. I just call on the European Commission to encourage higher education institutions and cultural institutions to collaborate with each other at the local, national, and international level, by creating a dedicated call related to the European Cultural Corridor or any supporting measures that may contribute to further developments of the corridor. And I will be particularly honored to present this declaration to Commissioner Maria Gabriel later today, and most grateful to Minister Manuel Leitor for his, I would say, tireless support and enthusiasm for this project. The declaration will be open for signing by citizens and institutions at university and cultural website, and I hope I can count on your support. And I will now give the floor to the next speaker, Christian Eller, member of the European Parliament. The floor is yours.
Now the floor before Christian, not yet, is to Luís Gomes, from Artes e Letras, Books and Graphics Designers from Óbidos. The floor is yours, Luís.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. Well, I'm here in a capacity that has an editor, and to announce a collection of books that in the contest of Portuguese Presidency and the Erasmus program will be issued, and the 24th, September 24th. First, it will be a collection with roughly translated title, Utopia and Knowledge, Construction of the European Thought. It's based on names and titles that belong to our common heritage, that we always talk about, like utopia, that we always know our streets by name of the author of these books, but probably most of us never read it. So I thought to publish 6 of these works, and it will be this collection will be started between a partnership between Ministério da Ciência, Jornal do Público, Erasmus Agency, and the Bela e o Monstro Editora, which are joined together to do it. The first one of these books, it will be Utopia of Thomas More. And every week, between 1.5 months, it will be published one more title. Erasmus, Elogio da Loucura, Treaty of Things of China from Frei Gaspar da Cruz, Esmeralda de Situ Orbis, do Duarte Pacheco Pereira, and all the Latin letters of Damião de Góis. They were chosen, these 6 titles, because they were important. Because Esmeralda de Situ Orbis, for instance, it was the first account of Brazil before we even know Brazil exists. It shows a list of every places in the world. It broadens the mind of the people. It brings new things to a world where knowledge were spread and give new thoughts. And I'm sorry because I was not prepared to speak in English, and I'm very sorry of my. So I'm afraid that's all. I'm sorry. It's not much, but it will be 6 titles, which we thought they are very, very important, and they contribute more than me to the European thought. I'm sorry. Thank you very much for your attention.
Now we'd like to invite Christian Eller, member of the European Parliament. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
If you like, you can go there or speak from what you wish. You go there, maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President Vargas, dear Minister Heiders, dear experts, speakers, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to be here, to be in Lisbon, under the umbrella of the Portuguese Presidency of the Council of the European Union, to discuss one of the top priorities, and I might say that for a moment, of the European Parliament in recent years. The cultural and creative industries and their contribution to the economic successful and culturally rich Europe. And what we are doing today is nothing less, and that gives also a kind of emotional setting from politics to the occasion. We are doing nothing less than creating a manifestation of our deep appreciation of creators, artists, the creators, entrepreneurs, scientists. And usually this kind of manifestations of appreciation politically goes along with great ambitions but limited budgets. And I think this time it is different. And that's why I like so much to thank Manuel Heitor and the Portuguese Presidency, because they have every right, not just symbolically, to start what is the biggest program in the history of the European research program dedicated to the creative and cultural industries of Europe. It is a program ranging from museums to the highest tops of science. It's dedicated to the arts, it's dedicated to the cultural preservation, but it's also a kind of European conversation about where our politics will go, where our ambitions will go, what is the state of mind of Europe. So it's a broad umbrella, but it's just not a conversation, it's the starting point of a big European ambition. It is what we would call the unique selling point of the future of Europe. This merge of science, of innovation, of ambitions in CO2 reductions, in digitalization, the appreciation of our cultural heritage, but also the link not to see that as history, the link between the cultural heritage, today's creators, and the scientific future of Europe. And so we have high hopes, and I really appreciate the Portuguese presidencies and Manuel Heitor's really power to get an agreement between the two co-legislators to be brave and to have a budget and not just promises. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christian, for your insights and also for participating in this event. As you all know, we have a well-structured division of power in Europe between the Council, which represents the Member States, the Commission and the Parliament, and Christian has been particularly active in promoting research and innovation together with creative industries within the European Parliament, which is a co-decision process particularly important. Later today we will have the Commission, and so the idea of this meeting is to bring the three, power and the deciding structures for Europe, the Parliament, the Commission and the Council. Actually, we know that we live unprecedented times of the value of science, and if today, probably if we have a vaccine, was very much in association or a result of this unique endeavor throughout Europe and also elsewhere for articulating fundamental knowledge with innovative breakthroughs. And actually, if we have a vaccine in Europe through BioNTech, that is clear, that result. But it is also time to also open up this debate and to bring to our concern the memory of the past. Actually, this year we commemorate 450 years of the main founding principles of the humanitarian thought in Europe. Actually, Luís just brought the book of Francisco de Holanda exactly 450 years ago, which was edited in Portugal 60 years ago by a well-known humanist and architect, Jorge Segurado. And this book, together with other main works from Erasmus de Rotterdam, Damião de Góis, and among others, and Luis just report a few of them, actually goes very much to the discussion that Fatima so well presented here of utopia, what if. And essentially, the idea today is to bring dimensions which are not always present in our European way of looking at research and development, and particularly looking from a citizen's approach, and to recognize the value of the local initiatives, local, regional, which at the end of the day bring the unique European value of diversity across our regions. Almost everywhere and in any single village or city throughout Europe, we have specific artisans, people doing creative art work. And this question to bring this local dimension through research and innovation, in particular to research, which actually has become very much a global activity, puts together a contradiction, which very much is the utopia that either Fatima and Luis report. What if we bring together this global approach of research, particularly in the European context, with this diversity of the local context in a way that we can build networks of European cities, villages, of European creative industries which come across all over Europe. And certainly, again, Christian has been particularly active at the level of European Parliament to make sure that the new Horizon Europe program do provide the capacity and the opportunity for building together networks between these local diversified contexts and the global research endeavor that we are very much used in the science and technology field. Certainly, this is a challenge for researchers at large, but also for regions. It can only be done if it involves municipalities and essentially people at large and citizens in particular address and clearly recognize the values of these creative industries. We are not speaking about replacing the traditional way of doing science, never. We want to add these components more and more of a research approach to local citizens driving creative industries. And this per se is a very loose definition. Actually, in preparing this meeting together with Christian, we were arguing how large is this overall endeavor? And there are several statistics. Actually, the last briefing from the Commission reports about 8.4 million European citizens in association with this broad concept of creative industries, which go from photography to cinema, theater, but also jewelry or dance or certainly music. And I do believe that also one of the reasons why statistics are so loose in this area is because we have in this area a critical issue of precarity in the labor market, which should worry all of us. Actually, the Portuguese presidency within the research and innovation concept put an emphasis on research careers and on the critical need for Europe at large to provide better and more research careers, particularly with an emphasis on young researchers. This is certainly a topic everywhere now in the research community, and about 1 month ago, the OECD produced a new report on the characteristics of the labor force in the research context, but also in the creative industries. We know this is a particular issue everywhere throughout the world. And again, I do believe that Europe has today a leading role to provide the necessary social framework, which is definitely much more adequate than elsewhere in the world, particularly in the other side of the Atlantic or in Asia. And this idea that to bring citizens for the center of this discussion and essentially putting in the center of this debate those which typically have been in the margins and in association with researchers, certainly, in my understanding, will create a unique value for people to better understand why we should rely in research, certainly for producing vaccines, but also for understanding the roots of the local, the local and most marginalized citizens through the creative arts in association. And the most important today is that I thank you, Ciência, Viva and Rosalia Vargas, because she was able, in collaboration with Joana Mendonça, the president of the Innovation Agency, to bring together a number of 11 different cases from the most diversified sectors, some from Portugal, else from Germany, but also the Netherlands and France and Italy, in the most diversified sets of areas, some from very large engineering companies like Porsche, in the development of new ideas for autonomous driving, but also others from innovative textiles, from a Portuguese company in the area of textiles, but also from independent art schools in terms of jewelries, or independent artists in the most diversified sector, from music to graphical arts. And I'm pleased also to have here several artists. Rui Costa, actually today is a nice day because he has just here an exhibition, and later today he will open a new exhibition in Lisbon, so I'm sure he is so shy that he will not invite you for his new exhibition, but you can, I'm sure, discuss that with him. And essentially the idea is, without no particular coherence, to listen to all of you and to better understand the way we can better enrich ourselves throughout this amazing diversity that we have in Europe from different areas, but also, again, putting citizens at the center of this debate. And with this, I believe we should open the debate. I just want to let you know that Commissioner Maria Gabriel will arrive about 4 p.m. and after these case studies, which will be briefly presented, we will have a small debate so that later we can discuss also this idea of a manifesto on citizen-centered research-driven creative industries. But with no further delays, I may pass to Joana, President of the Portuguese Innovation Agency, to have this difficult task to moderate 11 different case studies. Joana, please.
Thank you, Minister Manuel Heitor. Thank you, Rosalia, for such a nice invitation and collaboration. It's actually a really genuine, true pleasure to be here today, surrounded by all these nice projects, which I will be glad to hear and we can all hear. Until a month ago, I was teaching engineering students how to engage more with users in order to develop their products. So I'm establishing bridges with other fields. For the last month, I've been worrying about innovation, how to promote innovation. And it is known that, of course, for innovation to occur, we need diversity. In fact, the work of Richard Florida has established a linkage between diversity and economic growth. His work is not very welcome by many people, but I think it's an interesting story to show the importance of creativity and diversity in regions. And it's really good that Europe as a region is actually following his work, even without establishing this relationship. So my role today is a bit ungrateful because I will have to keep up with time. And I know this will be the most difficult task of my role today. So without further ado, I would like to start with our first speaker, Anna Burstov, which I don't know the people, so I'm sorry for that. So Anna is talking to us a bit about science jewelry, besides from her jewelry work, she's actually an architect, or has a degree in architecture, maybe that's more correct to say. She has worked with several museums in Portugal and abroad, and collaborated in different projects with many institutions in heritage, cultural heritage, and was also, in terms of policy, actually advising the president of the Portuguese Republic for culture. Thank you so much, and I please ask you just to be brief. I'm sorry, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, first of all, for this invitation. We are honored to be part of this roundtable. I'm here in the capacity of representing ARCO, a non-profit association that will soon celebrate 50 years of activity as an independent art school dedicated to experimentation, training, and promotion of arts, crafts, and other visual and communication disciplines. Our main areas span from drawing and painting to photography, cinema, art history, illustration, ceramics, and jewelry, of course. We are based in Lisbon, but also in Almada, on the other side of the river. In 2019, within the context of a protocol established with 4 ministries, ARCO and Ciência Viva, we signed a cooperation agreement. And this partnership aimed to implement projects that contribute to the training of young people and access to scientific culture by all citizens, thus establishing a meeting point for both institutions and a bridge between art and science. We faced this challenge with great enthusiasm, for it represented the opportunity to enact one of our teaching premises at ARCO, to develop the art training process in close connection with areas outside the strict art world. One of the experiments we endeavored was the very simple and introduction of science-based themes and exercises in areas such as illustration, ceramics, and in this case we are presenting here today jewelry. A broad group of themes picked out in the areas of science and technology were proposed as exercises to students at various levels of the jewelry course for 1 school year. Their work method included stages of research, of synthesis of creative ideas, of questioning adequate technical execution skills, and of course with the accompaniment of their teachers, followed up by their teachers. So themes as varied as water and environment, or robotics, or fauna and flora, or the human body and physical phenomena were introduced, and students used them in a very free way, experimental way, to produce a variety of objects, or jewels, we can call them, using natural, synthetic, recycled, or precious materials. They approached their exercises in different relations to the body, as extensions, or as pendants, or as pins, prosthetics, objects. Today we are only presenting a very small selection of these results, but I think taking into account that they are just training exercises from students from level 1 even, we think that they demonstrate the creative, formal, and technical potential of the authors, as well as the visual and conceptual richness that they managed to introduce in their work via these dialogues with science. With the general support of Ciência Viva, we managed to exhibit these results here in this space, exactly, in November 2009, where we invited scientists to use these objects, to experiment, to relate to them, and to ask questions to the authors, thus creating another moment for dialogue and exchange of views. So we were asking, were they body parts or extensions? Were they visual representations of viruses or systems? Were they questions or tensions regarding environmental subjects? Of course, these interpretations, as they must in art, must maintain their subjectivity. Progress in science and technology no doubt provide new medium and materials to be explored with by artists. But they offer also endless fertile visual material to be related with. For sure, artistic creation can help science and researchers to think outside the box too. The experience of teaching and learning at ARCU has always promoted this transdisciplinary or multidisciplinary understanding of artistic work. Thus, we are thankful for this partnership, and we are longing for more surprising results in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. They're beautiful. So our next speaker is I believe, in Barcelos, if that's correct. Yes. Paula Tavares, yes?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, hello. Actually, Paula, I've met when I had the privilege to visit Instituto of Cava da Nave, where she's a coordinator professor. In addition to that, she's also a researcher and co-director of the Research Institute for Design, Media and Culture. She coordinates the Group for Communication, Art, Object and Synergies, and her research interests are in art and design, where she has been leading applied research projects on design. Paula, nice to see you again in this shape. Please go ahead. Thank you.
I'm sorry for being on this shape, but I had another commitment, so I am online. I am very happy with this opportunity to present our project today, so I'll start. Let's go. So, hello again. This project is named Fusion, Fashion, Upskilling, Innovation, Open Network, and is an international partnership project funded by Creative Europe. Fusion is offering designers and makers training in digital fabrication skills and co-designing methodologies towards the development of bespoke products across fashion, textiles, and wearables for active aging citizens. Active aging aims to extend healthy life expectancy and quality of life for all people as they age. Through a series of masterclasses, a short residency program, networking events, a seminar, exhibition, thematic research, mapping, and development of creative business toolkit, this project aims to increase access to digital fabrication technologies for fashion and textile designers and makers, enrich professional capacities in digital fabrication and co-designing with active aging citizens, open new business opportunities for the design and craft sector, and to develop new business models for creative enterprises interested in cross-sector innovation within fashion and textiles. This is a unique opportunity for designers and makers with ambition to learn new skills, combining digital fabrication technologies with traditional skills in textile and fashion, and to expand their professional capacities in user testing and co-designing with users. Well, this project started when COVID started, but it was postponed, of course. And this project will run from April 2020 till April 2022. Fusion is delivered by 4 international partners: Limerick School of Art and Design, leading the project; Crafts Council from the UK, leading the part of creative business; we, as IPCA, the design school, leading the part of product development; and Fondazione Sant'Agata per l'Economia della Cultura, leading on research into the access of digital fabrication tools. We have 8 brilliant selected designers in this project, 2 per each country, that are being prepared by us, the partners, to develop a project during the residencies. This preparation consists on a group of masterclasses by partners on digital fabrication, aging, creative business, product development, and sustainability, always sustainability, with specialists and professionals in these areas. For example, the Portuguese masterclasses organized by my team had a group that included textile companies in the north region of Portugal, Barcelos specifically, designers and artists discussing how to create and produce nowadays in a sustainable way. Well, before COVID, we planned these masterclasses, including visits, real visits to the textile companies. All the project was planned face-to-face. But with the pandemic, we took the companies to the participants and partners through videos and testimonies. IPCA's masterclasses went live on Facebook, and it was a success in dissemination. It was good, very good for the project. Now we are in the middle of the project, and we are planning the artistic residencies face-to-face. We hope. We really hope. We are also planning the final exhibition in London. I want to say thank you so much for this invitation. It's a pleasure to be here presenting Fusion. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Paula. It was great to hear you. We come back to the room and stay with textiles with Beatriz Ferreira, who works at the Knit Creative Department at TMG, a company. I don't know if the team of Paula visited you, but there's a chance maybe to do something in the future. Beatriz works at looking at trends and looking at clients and markets and presenting new fabric ideas and garments, and she will tell us a little bit more about that. Thank you, Beatriz.
Do I have the little command, please?
I'm sure it will be brought to you very quickly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, perfect. So, good afternoon. My name is Beatriz and I'm here in representation of TMG Group. I've come here today to talk you through our vision and interpretation of the movements of society and how they are impacting mobility tomorrow. Starting with one of the highest mottos boosting our innovation and research department is the will to generate future solutions that will solve upcoming needs from the consumers. We believe that we cannot predict the future, yet we can create it. TMG is a company situated in the north of Portugal that carries 85 years exploring cloth and textile matters. Founded in 1937 with 6 handlooms, and having started the exploration of PVC in 1950, it merged its know-how in 2019 with the generation of the textile for automotive department. Having said that, a new era of research and development was set, and with it came the generation of creative textiles. The trends observed and analyzed within mobility are the movement towards megacities, the infinite growth of sustainability, customer experience, connectivity, functionality, and social responsibility. The concentration of the worlds in the urban centers is a growing trend that brings the necessity for tight management of the reduced physical space. This enhancing shared mobility. Also, having an impact on this matter is the aim to build a future that is ethically, socially, and environmentally responsible. This community awareness leads to the desire to share means of transportation, to reduce the fossil fuels and energy consumption. Allied to the consumer's hopes is the higher interest for experience rather than for possession. Shared, connected, and autonomous mobility goes hand in hand with the foreseen ecological and digital transition. Human-machine relationships are therefore redesigned through immersive experiences resultant from the connection of our senses. There is a new sensation of technology being boosted by the Internet of Things and 5G. So as to generate functional materials for an added value interior, textile appear as a solution that implies good performance behavior in lightweight products that are eco-conscious and can be connected. Finally, social responsibility is the trend maintaining and empowering the healthy relationship between the corporations and the consumers, aiming at building a trust bond that elevates the value-driven network that society is morphing into. Fed by these trends are the key drivers for textiles within mobility, that are think functional, third living space, and rebuild car sharing. At TMG, we develop textile-based solutions that focus on human-centered design through the symbiosis of innovation, performance, and circularity. I have brought to you a series of 4 different creative approaches that show a unique technological domain merging an industrial craftsmanship with the advances of I&D. This path starts with the reinventation of textiles, materialized by a 3D knitting effect achieved through a new yarn path notation technique that gives way for weft knitting fabrics to be 3D and spacious. This allows the fabric to exist by itself as a full solution for covering the transportation surfaces, as it avoids the lamination process that is the one responsible for killing the recyclability of the so far used materials. Further, following the need for information to be either embedded or passed through the surfaces, we have created a woven textile solution that is composed by a very fine monofilament that allows for the desired functionality to be applied from behind or through the fabric surface. Following these more traditionally looking textile surfaces, there is also space to explore materials that were up until now used in other sectors. As a sustainable material, the basalt fabric is produced from a Portuguese rock from the Azores island and is built to be a fully fire retardant solution for means of transportation. Further, we are studying the hypothesis of it being blended with other textile fibers, generating an innovative yarn blend not yet been seen. Additionally, we are also exploring the carbon fiber in woven textile format, thus producing a strong, lightweight, conductive surface that has high dimensional stability and low thermal expansion. Currently, we are investigating the conductivity of these fabric surfaces when blended with newfound fibers. This will result in a very powerful cloth that can substitute not only the interior of the transportation means, but can also be the vehicle frames themselves. I finish my presentation by thanking you all that have been involved in this event, and to the participants that are also sharing new creative approaches for the several industries represented in this roundtable.
Thank you, Beatriz.
Which is your training, Beatriz? You are an engineer?
There. I am a textile designer. I graduated from Heriot-Watt University in Scotland, in Galashiels. It's in between Scotland and England, in the borders. A nice, cold place to live. And my specific degree is in knitted textiles, even though currently I'm working in both knit and woven format. In a more innovative approach, but it's a designer, me. Thank you.
And you didn't mention that you are selling these to automobile car companies.
Yes, currently, so what we presented was our newfound department, which I have the pleasure to be the project manager of, alongside a team of both very young people that just came out of university, and merging this knowledge with old people, well, elderly people that are not old. So if my colleague Mr. Cunha is watching this, I'm sorry. But with people that have been working for 40 years in the industry, and by merging the knowledge of always questioning why with the people that know how the machines work, is how we can create new innovative approaches that are very new and still behave and perform correctly in the as you can imagine in the automotive industry, we cannot present just aesthetically beautiful fabrics. We have to present something that works and that gives our value-driven network, the new people living, an eco-conscious answer that has a closed ecological future, and that's what we are working in.
You did very well, because I really enjoyed hearing Beatriz speak without a prepared speech. Where we could hear the true Beatriz with no support, just that it was clear that she really knows what she's talking about, so that was very nice. Even though she called us old. Because I believe she's a lot younger than most of us. Let me look in the room, except for João, probably. But anyway, it's good to know that we can keep working the old and the new, and doing creative solutions for many different things. We actually fly to Austria now, where we have Gerin Trautenberger, who is the founder and owner of Microgiants Design and Research, and the chairperson of the Creative Industries Austria since 2013. He was also a board member of the European Design and Innovation Initiative, working together for the DG Industry and Enterprise. And he's also director for Vienna Open, which is a festival for open innovations, where he investigated the implementation of open design practices and innovation for smart cities. Currently, he's teaching at the Wi-Fi Graz Design Management, and is a board member of the European Creative Business Networks. Gerin, thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you for the invitation to present our good cases for citizen-centered and research-driven creative industries in Europe. I'm Gerin Trautenberger. I'm working as a designer and business model, but I'm also president of the Creative Wirtschaft Austria. Our organization is a sectoral organization with 45,000 members and is a strong part of the Austrian Chamber of Commerce. Our activities are built around three pillars. Firstly, service for the economic empowerment of the creative economy. Secondly, research, where we look at the transformative and innovative effects of the CCIs. And thirdly, we are also a policy organization with the goal to represent the interests of our sector and generate a broad understanding of innovation and to level the playing field for the CCIs. We represent 10% of all Austrian companies and are responsible. The sector is responsible for 22 billion euros in added values, which equals around 6% of the Austrian GDP. The creative economy sector is a broad sector, and artists from small firms, design, film and music, to bigger branches such as publishing, media and advertising. Software and games. With COVID-19 pandemic, all of the sector was hit, but mostly the performing arts was hit with a decline of 50 to 90% of the turnover because of the pandemic. Software and games, on the other side, and advertising profited from the lockdowns and even showed a slight increase in sales. As our research shows, the crossover effects of the creative economy are not only affecting directly the CCIs, but also indirectly, and induced effects on the CCIs have a stronger impact of the rest of the economy. With 22 billion euros of direct effects, the indirect and induced effects show an impact of nearly 39 billion euros, which corresponds to 10% share in the Austrian GDP. Under this slide, one can easily argue that our CCI is bigger than the tourism sector and the chemical sector in Austria. To foster cross-sectoral cooperations and to use the innovative power of the CCIs to transform the Austrian enterprises, over the last 10 years we built a network of more than 1,000 creative entrepreneurs. This creative accelerator, we call it 3 to the power of 3, CCC, the creative economy, community coaching, aims to connect creatives to scale their activities and to help to innovate in co-creative processes. The second project are crossover workshops for the most hit branches of the pandemic, like fashion, print, and Austrian tour guides. In the Austrian economy, to innovate new methods, business models, or projects, to use new innovations to transform their business models. The goal of this project is to establish a sustainable and transformative project, ideas, developments, which act as a showcase for the whole sector. We call this 1 + 1 = more than 2, the Kreativwirtschaft effect or the cross-innovation effect. Now I will show you 3 distinct cases where we can demonstrate this Kreativwirtschaft effect or the crossover effect. The first case is the Goldsmith Schulin with My Diamond Ring, where already before the pandemic, the goldsmiths thought that they should open to new target groups, to online affinity groups, and want to establish an online shop. Due to this development process, together with the creatives, they developed even a finger measuring tool where you can measure your finger and then already ordering your fixed ring, which will be produced and sent home to you. The second project is a traditional carpenter project where they developed the pine wood beds, the koje, and it demonstrates the shift from a system kitchen appliances to a new product, to a new way of selling things, to produce your own goods and services and even your own shops. And the result was they doubled the staff and tripled the turnover over the course of 5 years. The third project I want to show is Wachmannmühle, a mill and bakery, a very old one from the 14th century, where they had to decide if they want to go on as a mill or close it down, because usually now it's all made somewhere else, the dough and the system bakery, so to say, and you just buy it and heat it up, or use your oven just as the end of a value line. But they, together with creatives, they decided to re-establish the old mill, to reinforce the traditions and own their own bakery shop, and the result was a double turnover and a widened distribution network for the bakery. In conclusions, I would say the CCA is a strong sector. The CCA is a partner for change. We saw today 3 case presentations and 2 programs. We can say that 4% of the European GDP is produced by the creative industries, but only 1% of the GDP is distributed in COVID-19 relief funds to the creative industries. I want to thank Member of Parliament Christian Ehler, which is a strong supporter of the European agenda. And we have to say that the Horizon program, the Cluster 2, has to be reshaped, and because it's not really designed for SMEs and for the creative economy. So thank you for your attention. Here's a link to the videos and to the case studies.
Thank you, Garen. We come back to the room, and I will introduce with great pleasure, even though I'm reading, I wouldn't have to read, that Rui Horta is one of the most influential choreographers of his generation. His work has been performed all over the world in many different theaters, like the Théâtre de la Ville, Joyce, or the Spiral Hall in Tokyo. And since 2000 he directs o Espaço do Tempo in Montemoro Novo, which is a transdisciplinary structure that supports numerous national and international creators. So without further ado, Rui, please.
Play. Okay. So thank you, everybody, and thank you in advance for listening to me, and thanks to Rosalie and the organization for inviting me to be here today. First thing I want to talk to you is about utopia. I will not talk about my past as an artist. It's a bit forgotten in the moment because as we try to be useful in the moment, we forget other passions. But the thing that I learned that I never studied in fact, running a residence center or being a culture manager, which is a rather strange definition. So it's a learn by doing, and it has an element of utopia. We started 21 years ago in Montemor Novo, a small city in the Alentejo, a center in an old convent, Convento da Salvação. And in this place, in this city of 8,000 inhabitants, we slowly develop something that is surprising even for us every day along the way, which is the biggest residence center in Portugal and one of the biggest ones in Europe. And so for us, this is something that came in a natural, non-planned way. It just happened. And I think the concept of this place that I wanted to talk to you about today, this is actually a little map of actually this month, our festival closing, and we have now 4 residents at the same time. So somehow this idea of art needing a place of residence is very much on our time. Art is not a repetition of reality. Art is somehow a recycling and a contamination of all the inputs that exist, obviously, historically in the big metropolis, obviously, but that to happen and to exist, it needs some kind of displacement, needs a distance, a critical distance from those inputs. And so being in the countryside has been a perfect recipe for success for us. And of course, the whole idea is that as a project, you're only successful if people want to use it, if it's useful. I think this idea of being useful is very important and humbles us all the time, because in fact, we have always to invent something that keeps up, because in 20 years a lot changed. And production ways in the arts, in theater, in dance, in media, in all forms of art became very cross-disciplinary, so it was a challenge. So this project being something that the others are not, because there was a lot of theaters being rebuilt, etc., but there was not an incubation center, there was not a production center. And so we felt that this was necessary. And so somehow we created this place where that's a kind of a protective skin, where you can really feel protected and you know, you don't lose your energy in the city, putting your car in the park or going to your office or taking care of some whatever thing that happens to you on that day. You just wake up in the morning, the food is on the table, the studio is warm, it's clean, and you work on a residence for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, totally focused on that, and that has proved to be highly helpful for a lot of artists. So this idea of incubation of contents works because we function as almost like a science institute. It's like a lab. So it's really expensive. It's really like, it's big spaces. Normally these are collaborative arts. A lot of people have to eat, to sleep. So we have like around 20 rooms now. This is Sara Barros Leitão. She sent me this on WhatsApp 2 days ago, saying it's almost unbelievable I'm here. She's in the countryside in a 4th area of residence we opened in Herdade do Freixo do Meio, which is an incredible place. And this is the house of Alfredo Sindin. And there are 4 rooms, and they're just starting a production, putting the books on the floor. So the whole idea of receiving people and it's homing. It's make you feel home and making you feel also technically equipped to do your pieces. So the main thing that you feel when you come to this place and you see is a cook, is Maria. And today I must say that the change is that now 80% of our menus are vegetarian or vegan, and that changed 100% since 20 years ago. So we really have to have a cook, and then we work with all the restaurants in town. But food on the table is a question of almost respect. It's something that is wonderful and takes away your needs of going shopping and cooking. So you always have food on the table in our place. Then there's this also idea of always having a smile to the artist. You know, when an artist comes into a place like ours, it normally comes with a heavy history because, you know, he heard probably his parents saying all his life, you know, do like your sister, she runs his business, or your brother studied in university, but, you know, theater, dance, what is that about? And so when these people walk through the door, we made them feel so loved. And in fact, this place is like a temporary home. And home is a smile, is food on the table, that's mama, right? Is a bed, and is your studio, and everything is possible. And all of a sudden, this releases a huge creative tension into the work, and it's like highly economical. So we also have a second area that we work, which is advanced peer-to-peer formation, where we for instance, this is Tiago Rodrigues doing a formation with younger artists. We work with a lot of international partners. We are very connected internationally. which also questions this idea of cosmopolitanism. We are in the middle of the countryside, and we're probably one of the most connected internationally organizations in Portugal. We are on the board of 3 or 4 networks, and we survive because of that interactivity with our partners internationally, and we learn a lot between us. I learn a lot. I mean, I learn a lot from my own profession, because I mean, basically I'm an autodidact, but there are people that are doing this professionally for a long time, so they help me a lot throughout this process with a lot of advice. And so this formation, of course, for us is transdisciplinary, which is our time, is horizontal, is transcultural, people from different cultures, different countries, and is obviously or cross-generational. You learn normally with the older ones, and these 3 things are very important. Then we have this idea of being a hub for international connection. So also, once more, our place is a very small place in the countryside, but we organize the Portuguese Platform for the Performing Art, which is the most important event in Portugal. Actually, it just happened last week in a very small format. On Sunday, we put online 20 videos filmed with 3 cameras. We invested a lot of money with that on the last 3 months, and we had 150 promoters from all over the world that already asked our password. So the videos will be available full version from the 20th of June to the 20th of July, and that will help a lot to send and to export, between commas, because we are not, although you're being a culture product, we are an art form, so that's not a good definition. This is our online platform. These are an atmosphere of a normal platform with 100 producers, 80 producers from all over the world talking in our facilities, watching performances of very, very experimental work. Our work is extremely, adds a level of utopia, because in the middle of a small town in Alentejo, we do real experimentation and avant-garde creation, but we are very loved in town, because there's not just art, there's also culture. So we have a very strong social culture project, and there's no chance of having a research, highly experimental project if you don't have the correspondent cultural, social cultural, and you are embraced in town, and even an economical process. We're really good business for town, because we bring money from all over and we invested in town, because our main goal is we function with the principles of a local development association. First we buy in town, only when there is not in town we buy elsewhere. Then we have our relation with community. I put some pictures here, which means we have a strong school program. We have also deep relation with other associations, both amateurs and professionals. We have a lot of children performance. We do parties, because there's an age where we lose all these kids because they just want to, do what they cannot do now with COVID, which is partying. So we do raves, we do parties, and we get them back when they're young adults. Later on they come back. But we keep a bond with them. With João Paulo Santos, big artist, Portuguese artist, one of the biggest in Chinese mass all over the world. So we do concerts, music, connection with kids. We go to kindergartens. We have 3 bands in our 3 fanfares, beautiful, beautiful symphonic amateur bands that we perform. So we are very connected to town. Besides that, I would like just to give you a couple of numbers for you to, and they are a little bit almost crazy when I say this, but especially in this year of pandemic, we have 700 artists passing in Montemor. This year we did 900 PCR tests. We started doing PCR 18th of May. We are completely outlaw. We never closed. We didn't close during the months of winter. We kept quiet on Facebook, so now I'm online, everybody can hear me. But yes, we had confinement, creative confinement. We make sure that 4 residents come, everybody tested PCR in Lisbon or in Porto, 4 days of isolation before, of voluntary isolation. You come, people end up by working without masks in 4 separate cells, in 4 mirror areas. We never cross. We leave the food at their places, etc., etc. So what happened is that they could not even leave their living quarters. They just could go studio living quarters. And my production team I had to seduce them to even go and buy cigarettes, chocolates, beer, but they could not leave the convento. They could not leave our spaces. That was wonderful. Actually, the artists they valued this very much. The truth is that nothing stopped in terms of incubation of pieces. We have only 9 people working, so we have a huge level of productivity between producers and technicians. This year we had 110 residencies, so the free scene was in Montemor. The challenges we have, well, the main challenge, of course, is financial. We're always struggling, so this is a big need for me to understand how can I make stable a private non-for-profit association that's not public, but does public service, that's on the free scene, and probably one of the strongest in Portugal, but still very fragile, because I want to go away and I want to make an international call for someone to replace me, and I have to make sure that there's money and that everything runs. The team is good, but there's not much money, so this is one of my big obsessions in a moment. The other thing is that probably the main challenge is to keep together a team. How can I keep a team together in Montemoro Novo? And you know that when someone goes away, it's like chopping an arm. You know, we learn by doing. So this is a big team building situation for us, always a big questioning, a lot of evaluation, self-evaluation. They evaluate me, I evaluate everybody, we evaluate each other. But we try to bind really strongly, and we lose people. So we have to, our experience says we should form people locally. These are the most stable. But then we need people from outside to drive the organization. So this is a huge challenge. We got a little drum a couple of years ago. The ceiling from the convent felt. Almost stayed under a wonderful Swedish choreographer, Jefta van Dinter, which was a kind of a superstar in the free scene in Europe. 2 days before he was there still. So we moved to an old hospital, beautiful, right? We find this place in Montemor. At the same time, we were rebuilding an old garage. We did this in 6 months until it looked like this, where we are now. So we are living now in this wonderful building, a garage, where we created 2 small theaters inside, because we work as a lab. So for us, this is our office. We had to grow as in every corner the best way we could. And this is the first residence, Teresa Coutinho, arriving and for the first time doing a piece there. So this was a beautiful moment for us. And so I'm trying to go fast. There's so much I could tell you. But where is the future for us? Well, the future, first of all, is the rehabilitation of the Convento da Salvação that is undergoing now renovation. That's the good thing of a falling ceiling. And that all of a sudden, our Minister of Culture went on and said, okay, no, we really need to take care of this. And I'm very, very proud and very happy that we could help also on this process. And so what we would like in the future is to generate kind of, if possible, a creative hub in the Alentejo, in this area, because we need some kind of critical mass. A lot of people are moving to Montemor now. There's a movement to the countryside, to the rural areas, so we are trying to jump on this wave and go fast, trying to make sure that people can create, can produce, and can live, and can bring a change that our little town so much needs. And so the opportunities of this displacement of young people, which is incredible, for instance, to the Alentejo, young, skilled, full of passion, this is a huge opportunity for us and for the country. And so due to the COVID-19, of course, people are leaving, but also due to this huge acceleration of the digital world that we live on. So you can perfectly live in Montemor, come 1 day a week to have meetings in Lisbon, and still live there, bring your kids to school there, involved, engaged, and this is very important. So this brings us also to this conclusion that innovation no longer is dependent of being in the center, and that these creative and cultural industries, they can, of course, contribute very much for the territorial cohesion, for a country being a full country everywhere, and by attracting new residents. So we really believe we can have this excellency. Today we don't need to believe, we know we have excellency because we see the pieces premiering. Like this weekend just premiered 2 wonderful pieces created there in the last months. So I would like to say to you basically the relation between, I'm very fond of the relation between art and science. I live with a scientist. I mean, I learn every day that the methods are not so different and the goals are very, very, very similar. It's quite fascinating actually. But then this idea that art is not understood on the cultural industries and in the creative industries, that art by art simply is the locomotive of the creative industries. And like Augusto Mateus was saying, in Europe either there are creative industries or there are no industries. Because we cannot compete if we don't have a huge creativity and something else, because we cannot produce on the mass that China can or other big countries can. So this idea that also understanding that creative hubs like pure artistics, like a basic science institute that we see now with the pandemic, all of a sudden science was so important. No, art is also like that. So understanding that we need the pure core of art there, and we have a lot of people from advertisement watching the performances, a lot of people from other creative industries there. So this is absolutely important, relevant, and we have to defend this so that we don't feel that we are underfunded and we are these poor underdogs that always stretch your arms and ask for a little funding. No, we should be proud and say that we run the show. And we really have to be saying this out there and loud, and loud. So the future for me, I show you some pictures, and I put this door, which is very nice in the dark for today. There will be lights. And the future are young people. That's what I believe the future is. And this is the logo of a very, very exciting project, probably the most exciting project I did in my life. I want to go back to that, which is called Pessoas Pessoas, means pessoas written in small letters and then in capital letters, because culture, science, education change people into people. Cultura, arte, educação, a ciência transforma as pessoas em pessoas, as meias doses em dose completa. And so we created a project for young kids, very, very skilled young kids. We selected 16 kids, 8 boys, 8 girls, from 25 high schools in Lisbon, 12º ano. They were in residence 2 years ago, 450 hours, which is more than the entire year they study in school. No complaints. These were very, very strong kids. We felt the base was, in our Republican system, which is very, very honorable, we never leave someone behind. So the teachers never leave behind the...
I have to ask you
to finish. Okay,
please.
so I will finish. Can I have 30 seconds to finish?
It's breaking my heart, but
so I just wanted to say that we care a lot of the people that have trouble in education, but we don't pull the best ones. So we cannot adding wagons, we have to have locomotives. We need to have really strong leaders and leaders for the future. So we exposed these kids, this group of kids. We selected between 400 kids, 16. And we had exposed to work in culture and agriculture, sleeping on the floor in very Spartan ways, 8 boys, 8 girls. Every 2 weekends they were in Montemar. They travel all over. They had talks with scientists, people from design. He's the Delphine Sardo here, also, my God, in Mertula, Claudio Torres, wonderful archaeologist. And this is the smile at the end. They were exposed to economists, to talks, to spending a day with Irene Frusa Pimentel, or with Bruno Silva Santos, or with Vitor Cardoso, incredible scientist. So this for the kids was really exciting. So that is the image I would like to leave with you for the future. Thank you. Sorry for my time.
Thank you, Rui. Espetacular. We now move to a duo, not in the room, a duo between dance and astronomy. So we have Stats Wilhelm from the Netherlands, who works at the Netherlands Dance Theatre, based in The Hague and performing for large audiences in Europe and other places in the world. In addition, Stats is also artistic director at the Dance and Corso Theatre in The Hague and head of production for many years. He's today presenting his work with Pedro on Dance with Science. And Pedro is assistant professor of astronomy and society at Leiden Observatory and Department of Science, Communication and Society, and the coordinator of the Astronomy and Society Group. He's also the president of the International Astronomical Union Commission on Communication Astronomy with the Public, and is the global coordination of the largest network ever in astronomy, the International Year of Astronomy in 2009, and they will lead us through their dance.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanna, for the introduction. And also, indeed, I'm going to be presenting our open space project together with Stats Wilhelm from MIT Corso, and it's really where dance meets astronomy. I would like to start maybe the story from the beginning. A couple of years ago, together with my colleague at Leiden Observatory, Professor Henk Hoekstra, we were talking about how motion is essential for us to understand the universe. If we look at some of the big mysteries that we have nowadays in science, and especially about understanding the origin and future of our universe, we have to think about dark matter and dark energy. And we only know that they exist because of the motion that we can observe. Those are very evasive and very obscure concepts that we still don't fully understand. But we know that they exist, and we know that because we can see the motion of the astronomical objects. So looking at that, we thought that this could be an interesting entry point to work with our colleagues at the Netherlands Dance Theatre and really explore the topic of art, dance, and astronomy and cosmology. So we wrote to the artistic director of NDT and Fernando Hernando Magdan, and we managed to come together into a unique program that really brought together young but also establishing makers in the dance world and exploring really creativity both in dance but also in astronomy, and really to question the way that we do things in very unique way. So for 2 weeks, at the beginning of May this year, during the pandemic, we brought together 3 astronomers, 3 choreographers, 3 composers, and we worked with the NDT2 dancers, more than 15 dancers that all together worked and explored the topics of astronomy, cosmology through dance and music. I think I'm gonna ask Stetch to expand a bit on some of the results of this unique long-term collaboration between 2 of the, let's say, renowned organizations in astronomy and dance. But I would like before that to show one of the results that I think demonstrates the impact that this had in the dancers, for example. This is a quote from one of the dancers, and he says that maybe the most valuable piece of understanding for him was that if he found himself with no more questions or just with an answer, something was wrong. He always had to have questions. And if we think about this, this is the basic concept of the scientific method. So in a way, we look, and like Rui was saying, that the way that we work in dance and astronomy is much closer than what we expected. But I will leave now the microphone to Stach to expand a bit more on some of the results of this incredible collaboration.
Yes, thank you, Pedro, for this introduction, and also thank you, Rui, for the beautiful presentation, which was very inspiring. And I actually think that you would have loved to be in The Hague for the open space. It will be really sort of a project at your liking, and I'd like to emphasize that open space was a double novelty for all the people who engaged in it, because research is not common in big dance companies. The time pressure is so big that this is not happening. It's just not happening. And the second thing was, of course, the crossover of dance with cosmology as being the experts of movement. These were 2 unique things for them, and they found it fantastic. They were, of course, very impressed by cosmology, by the subject matter, by the sheer massive scale in time and space, and also the way and the relevance of this for the big questions of life. But what they were also impressed by was the openness and the involvement of the astronomers who walked through the dance studios as if this were their labs, and they were fully engaging and interacting with the dancers the whole time for 2 weeks. It was amazing. But then, of course, there was the realization: all these people, composers, astronomers, choreographers, and dancers, are just passionate people who are in a room asking questions. And what they have in common, what research is about, is embracing the unknown. The whole 2 weeks was about discovery, about curiosity, about focusing on process instead of product, about self-driven curiosity, self-driven creativity, achieving by failing. And what we try to do as an organization is to create an atmosphere of relaxedness, just like Rui is doing this in Montemor. So there could be a playfulness, a condition of which is a condition for momentum and a condition for magic. And what the participants discovered, was an honesty of working, an honesty which is actually bringing them to the essence of their art, of their science. Because what you see is research is really a different kind of creativity and a different creative energy. What the dancers were learning and the choreographers were learning from the astronomers had so much to do with the sharpening of the concepts, the metaphors, and the imagery, making it more sophisticated, more coherent. As examples, I can tell you about the dark matter as cosmic scaffolding, inflational multiverses, spiral density when galaxies merge, how the space is alive. These are concepts which are so inspiring for dancers to work with. The most important thing, though, I would call the outward turn after a saying of Henk Hoekstra, in which he is challenging the anthropocentric focus of arts, the so-called inward turn, let's say, to emotions and authenticity, which is so common in the arts. Instead of this, he say, look outside, look upwards, make the connection between the universe and the human. And this was immediately acknowledged by all the participants as a very important inspiration. The other way around, what dance gives to astronomy, which is not so much on the level of scientific discovery, that would be pretentious, but I think it has to do with the meaning and the impact of this knowledge on people. By working with dancers and choreographers, the astronomers were forced to look for analogies, forced to ways of rephrasing their knowledge, capture the concepts in other ways than mathematics, which is their usual language, let's say. They had to go into this embodiment, into this activating of intuition, which is so common for dance. It is going under the skin, and that's where we meet. And I like to end with a quote from one of the dancers. Just having the raw information is important, but the ability to interpret, internalize, and shift perspective is what makes it possible for us to implement new information into our lives on a deeply personal level. Thank you.
Thank you. We now come back to the room and go to music, or should I say sound? I guess that's the better term for Simão Costa's work, as he refers to sound as the main object of his research, exploring it as also tangible material. He develops audiovisual creation projects and has received many awards, international awards, with his work that he has been presenting in many countries in the world, including Portugal, Spain, France, Belgium, Poland, Netherlands, UK, Greece, Italy, and Brazil, and the list goes on. And he's the artistic director and funding member of the cultural association Mão Simão. Simão, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the invitation. I'll try to be brief. A lot of things have been said. I start to say that lots of things went wrong with my life. I'm supposed to be a pianist, so this is my background, and a classical pianist. And I still play. I just released a record, and with an upside-down piano, I would say. So, but today, instead of talking about my work as an artist, I would focus on my work like directing Mão Simão as a small institution, very small institution, that is 10 years old now. To say that the basic and most important thing that we try to do in Mão Simão is research and experimentation, which is the thing that I find the most difficult a thing to do, and to not to do, but to get funding, to have the means and the time and the place to finally do it. So we spend a lot of time trying to do it, and I guess a small amount of time doing it. But in the end, for me, it's really about connection and collaboration. So I'm supposed to be alone, like playing a piano. That is my background. And things went wrong. So collaboration began to be a big part of my life and work. So I would say some of my work is driven by collaboration with other artists that are going on in time. So I would say I would like to mention Marta Cerqueira. It is a choreographer and dancer, but also I would say a great dancer, but also doing like the inner part of the CD that just went down. So Ana Trincão and Sonia Moreira from the SAS Radio Orchestra project. It is like a dancer and a sculptor, and me as a musician. And Yola Pinto, it's also a dancer and choreographer. We have been working 10 years now as a partnership. and João Calisto, that is a visual artist and doing scenography and teacher. So why am I speaking about these people? Because I discovered that the most important thing to do research and to do the experimentation is to be together and connected. And the role of people that we don't know at all, it's also very important. So I bought this small object, so no presentation on the screen, but a small object. And I'm asking João Sampaio, that I don't know, but is near me, to try the kind of connection that we try to implement. So it's kind of getting to know a stranger. Okay, so let's do it. So we have the potential to be connected, and sound can be a way to understand that in very simple terms. So I'm going to connect this small device. It's a radio that we use to, so it's the transistor, very basic technology. And then, let's see if we can connect. Okay. So João just pressed one spot and is pressing the other spot now. And then I'm trying to connect with João. Okay. I think it's enough for an experiment. So somehow we are conducting electricity, and that's a way to feel that we are connected. Okay. So we are connected, we have an experiment, and we have tested it. So it's for real, there's no doubt. And then we have this research and experimentation desire, and then we have this thing about creative industries, and then we have Monsiman, which is a non-profit and non-industrial kind of organization. So as Rui was saying, our focus is the core art doing and the core art production. So that is something that art doesn't serve. It doesn't serve. There is no purpose, like no material, practical purpose in doing it, other than making a balance with the fact that we know that we exist. So it's very heavy for our machinery to know that we exist, and somehow we need a compensation. So this is more or less neuroscience approach to things. So it's so hard that we know that we exist that you need something else to make this homeostasis approach. So we do it, and it's good that we do it. But then, what is the relation between this core art doing and making and the industry? Because the industry is the opposite. Is to have a great idea and to replicate and to make it big and to make it like usable for a large number of people. So I'm just ending, and I'm giving two examples. One is John Shawning. It is a well-known musician, and it's well-known for creating something that is FM analysis, FM synthesis algorithm, and it's still the most wealthy patent of Stanford University. So it became, because he was researching for a music piece, and he wanted to have like 200 oscillators. They were very expensive at the time, and he invented a way to do it with 2 oscillators. And then he invented FM synthesis, and then finally Yamaha bought the patent and make it an industrial impact that would impact all music industry in the 80s, and used to come with a Yamaha DX7 synthesizer. So this is just an example, someone that is doing core art. Of course, he was an engineer also. I would like to mention it because he was. It's very important. But there was like one driving direction, that was art making and creation, and then a completely different outcome that went to the industries. So I'm referring to Rui that said that core art was a locomotive, this image of someone pushing. I have no image to present, but I know that it's very important. I know that any industry of creating whatever would relate with the core art making. So I'll leave to you what is the relation and the importance and relation with this. I would leave to you the image of comparing research in science, core research and technology development, and core art making and the creative industries that would unfold things to the industry or to the economy and whatever. But the relevance of the core art making should be, it should be something. I would not say, but I'll leave it to you. So thank you, and thank you for the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Simão. As I've been failing completely at my job of moderating and keeping up with time, I go quickly to Germany, where Sebastian Hornung is as the manager branded entertainment at Porsche. He's waiting to talk to us. He began his career in 2012 at Porsche as a marketing specialist and is now the manager branded entertainment since 2016. Sebastian, welcome to Portugal.
And thank you for the invitation. So I'm sorry to change the topics at short term, so I will not talk about autonomous cars today, but my home turf is branded entertainment, and I have today, really present topic. It's esports, and I hope you are familiar with esports, and I don't want to bother you with numbers. I just want to stress out it is an important economical part, economical arm of sports. But the more important part is it is the sports of the youth. It's the sports of the teens. So it's their sports. And this is something we need to respect. And we tried to enter that with creativity and with giving a benefit to the community. So we listened a lot. First, you need to understand and listen, and you need to crawl before you can run. So normally, if you think about esports, you might have these kind of pictures in your mind. So a lot of different games, full halls and stadiums of people watching teams in different games competing. But we are trying to get the direction into more of these. So connecting cars with esports, connecting the old traditional motorsports world with modern, future-orientated esports racing, so that the boundaries between real and virtual racing are merging more and more. And this is also kind of democratizing racing. So normally you need to bring a bunch of money if you want to establish a racing career up to a Formula One cockpit. So you need to have sponsors, you have to invest a lot of money to get a cockpit in such a car. If we talk about esports racing, you can compete from everywhere in the world with the same with the same conditions. So it's really diverse. It is with fair rules and fair conditions for everybody. And we, of course, want to step into an authentic and natural step into esports and transfer our core values, our know-how into the virtual racing environment. Esports racing is really a bit underestimated so far. So if you look into other esports categories like shooters or multi-player online battle arenas or strategy games, racing has only a share of 5%, but it has a lot of benefits. It will be Olympic this year. So the first time ever, esports will be part of the Olympic Games in Tokyo, and racing is one category in the Olympic esports setup. Then racing is violence-free. I know there are a lot of political discussions about how games with violence opportunities are influencing kids and motivating them into violence, but racing is violence-free. It's spanning generations, so it's easy accessible, and everybody knows the rules, right? To finish first, you have to finish first. So the rules are easy. It's easy to follow a race, and the physics are easy to understand. It has a rich heritage, so racing is available on the earth since the first cars were created. It's bridging technology, as I mentioned before. So if you're good in esports racing, you could be good in a real cockpit as well, and vice versa. That is not the case in two other esports categories. So if you're good in FIFA soccer, you can't mess up with Ronaldo or Messi on the green. But if you're good in a virtual cockpit, you could be good and fast in a real cockpit as well. And on the other way, real-world race drivers are establishing their own esports racing careers. So in the virtual way, as they see the potential of fan engagement and a direct access to their community. And of course, esports racing has fair rules and competitions, and is accessible from all over the world. To raise esports racing and to let it grow, we looked into the different other sports worldwide. And normally, when there are heroes that shine, their whole sports will shine. So I'm sure you know some of these sports actors, and that is our approach to provide the community a benefit and establish their sports with esports racing. So that leads us to our mission and our vision we are working on. And our approach is that we want to develop and enable everybody to be part of the sports. So that is why we need to build structures and platforms for professional esports racing, so that they are racing series worldwide with rules, that there are enough prize money to at least have covered costs, but in the future you can make maybe a living with esports racing. So it is, you can step up a hierarchy, a career, and that is important for sports to not have only a big fundament, but also lead to a pinnacle, to be the best in the sports. That is always the aim for competing. And of course, we want to professionalize also the series setup, the promotions about esports racing, and the broadcasting, and of course, creating heroes, creating the new characters in their sports that shine for their sports and that has an idol leading for all the others worldwide. That's why we created the Porsche TechCoy Esports Super Cup. That is a worldwide competition with 40 of the best sim racers competing in 10 races from all over the world. That means from an apartment in Melbourne up to a flat in Scandinavia. 40 drivers worldwide are connected in different races and racing from home. So they have a racing rig downstairs or in their kids' room or wherever, and they're competing worldwide with the best sim racers to find a champion. We have a prize pool of 200,000 US dollars, so quite a lot to cover costs of teams and equipment, and of course to have a motivation to really give the best in every race and to achieve the championship at the end of the 10 race trophy. But as I mentioned, we want to enrich and enable the esports racing platform to show more of the heroes, to show more of the people behind the steering wheels in their living rooms or in their kids' rooms. And that's why we improve the broadcasting. So every racer has his own face cam that we can really see the emotions while they race at home. That is a big advantage in the real race world. All race drivers have a helmet. In a virtual environment, there's no need to wear a helmet, so we can see the emotions directly when they are overtaken or when they crash. And this is the kind of story we want to enrich, showing a career, showing some background information of the drivers worldwide, the different cultures, all the different faces, the different accents, the different background stories of their career, and to professionalize that with a enriched storytelling and production quality. And in the meantime, we have not only our global approach, but also spread that out.
I'm sorry, Sebastian, we are racing against time here. If you could head towards the end, I would appreciate it.
Just 20 seconds. So on a local level, we also established a lot of racing activities in different areas from Scandinavia to Japan and to Brazil to really give young drivers the potential to race up in a hierarchy in a digital world, but then they can choose, they can be the hero in the esports racing world, or they can try to step into the real world of motorsports. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Sebastian. So I quickly introduced our next case that will be presented by João Sampaio, who is a Portuguese product designer at Pixart Idea, a company that is specialized in industrial and product design derived from Fibernamics, which is an international platform from the University of Minho for the development of products based on fibers and composites. Please, João, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the invitation and for this meeting and for the European Roundtable. The Pixart Idea is a spin-off of Fibernamic Group, and the Fibernamic is in the University of Minho and is an international platform. And they have four main pillars that is intelligence, science, technology, and business. Like I said, Pixart is a spin-off of Fibernamics, and what we do is bring all the technology and the science and innovation from the Fibernamics and put in products and product design with innovative ideas and to be different in the market. I bring some projects that we do. This project is the Good Bottle. Is a project that we do for Mercury Foundation, and is a bottle that is in the market now. And we designed this bottle with our methodology in biomimetic design inspiration, with the forms, the cuts and shelves of the bottle, and we inspire in coral reef. This bottle is 100% organic material. In incorporation in this material, we have marine algae. This bottle is compost home and biodegradable. The next project is with the pandemic situation. We have some projects and masks and APIs elements, and this one is the mask that we project for Poleva. Is a professional use mask, and it's 1 frame and 10 filters. The filter that we do in partnership with Fibernamics with the electrospinning technology, and we do some elements in the mask, and we optimize the whole form for being more ergonomic in the nose and ears. This mask is already to the market. The last project is the contest that we win in April last year in Italy, Turin. We do this component for TUC Technology, that is a company, Italian company, that have a platform that be more is different now because they have a partnership with Volkswagen and other great companies, and for this contest we design a component, a compact company that have sterilization, disinfection, and health monitoring. This compact box is plug-in for the platform, for the TUC platform, and with the shared mobility, we win this competition for the design and for the idea, because with this pandemic situation, the shared mobility, we think more about this because it's different now, and with this kind of solution, can we do better for the health public? Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you so much.
for keeping up the time. We have one more participant from Germany, Peter Weber, who works at the Department of Ultrasound at the Fraunhofer Institute for Biomedical Engineering, a true scientist now. His research focuses on real science. His research focuses on microbial ecology and forensic signatures in biological and nuclear materials, and he has developed new methods for linking microbial function and identity in complex microbial communities. Peter, welcome.
So, welcome and thank you. My problem this afternoon is that I can see you, but I have no audio signal from you. So I hope you can hear me. Give me a short sign whether this is possible. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, I got the signal. Okay, I will talk about Fraunhofer. Probably you all do not know what Fraunhofer is. Fraunhofer is an association for applied research in Germany. It's a non-profit organization with 78 institutes. And in short words, you can say our task is to be the Red Cross for industry. That means we provide resources, technologies, and knowledge to mostly to small and mid-sized companies just to support new developments. And to give you one first example, what we have done in the past, just to support also the creative industry, is the MP3 codec was developed more than 30 years ago by Fraunhofer, which was a very important thing just for music and audio industry, and even YouTube and Spotify are using Fraunhofer codecs just to stream their videos and their audio. So just to give you an idea what we are doing to support the creative industry. Okay, I'm here to talk about the German Research Alliance of Cultural Heritage, and we have 32 members, 32 institutions, mostly from Fraunhofer, but also from other institutions like museums and institutes. And what we are doing in the Research Alliance now, I cannot switch to the next slide. It's not working here. Can Reggie help me? Okay, now it's working again. Sorry, I think the bandwidth is a problem. And we are 32 partners in that association, in that community, and we are, of course, we are developing a lot of different technologies. On the right-hand side, you see one of our developments is just a scanning robot for sculptures and things like that. I want to give you only two examples, not to go too deep into the technologies. And there was a project starting in 2015. It was called Cultural Heritage 1, and it was funded by the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft itself by 1.5 million euro. And one of the ideas of this project, I will talk about the content, was just to generate money for small and mid-sized companies. And from this 1.5 million euro, the companion and follow-up projects brought together 7.5 million euro. So that's the idea, just to invest our own money to get money also for other partners. The first project has several topics. One was digitization, visualization, consolidation, preservation. And the special topic was also the socio-economic impact of cultural heritage. I will talk a little bit more about digitization. On the left side, you see one of the measurement campaign we made at the Skulpturensammlung in Dresden in 2017. We make it public. It was just a campaign where we digitized different sculpture. Here you see the so-called Dresden Boy. It's a sculpture from the 4th century before Christ. And we made it in a public place, in the big entrance hall of the museum, so that people from outside, especially school classes, could come in and take a look at our work and ask questions. In the middle, you just see in the upside, you see just the process of digitization. We use structured light. And on the right side, you see just a combination of two different methods. It's the digital twin of the Dresdner Knabe or Dresden Boy. And we also used diagnostic ultrasound to look inside to see whether there is any damage inside the sculpture. And by combining both the digital twin and the ultrasound information, you can just show on a colored map, for instance, whether there are any cracks or things like that. So that's what we call consolidation. And then we go back with the digital twin, make a 3D printout. That's what you see in the middle on the bottom. And this was especially made as a 3D print for the art class of a school of the blind in Berlin. So we go back from the digital twin into the material world. And at the moment, not yet realized, but as a vision, we would try to transfer to bring the digital twin from the computer into the virtual world by using haptic technologies, by using acoustic holograms. So that's what we will do in the future. And the second part of the project, which starts 1 year ago and will last until next year, is just the topic is cultural heritage at risk. That means we take a look at effects of climate change and search for opportunities for digital transformation. And I've chosen one example. It's the development of a laser-based drone, which produces the digital twins of cultural heritage sites just for monitoring. That means we make these scans in different time steps so that we can see what influence the climate has on such sites. And on the right side, you see the drone, and back to industry. We give the technology. On the top side, you see to transport cars from the Deutsche Telekom. They use the same technology, scan technology, just to plan the 5G routes, the routes for the fast internet. So the digital transformation in this case is, you can say, it's just a transformation to creative industry 4.0. So that's one part of this project which will last until next year's. And I keep it short to gain some time. Thank you very much. I hope you like it. And as I said, unfortunately, I have no acoustical feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. We will close this session with the photographer Cláudio Garrudo, who is also an editor and cultural producer. He's had exhibitions in many countries, including Portugal, Spain, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Romania. He's the co-founder of Mapa das Artes and Bairro das Artes, and also the director of the Contemporary Art Association Isto Não é um Cachimbo. Cláudio, please.
Thank you very much. All that is true, but today I'm here to talk about PH series, photography collection of books published by Imprensa Nacional. And first of all, I would like to thank the organization and Manuel Leitor and Rosalia Vargas for the invitation. And it's an honor to be here with so amazing colleagues and that they share their experience with us. I brought this case study on photography canon, PH series. I would ask if you can bring me the pointer, please. Yeah, then I can move on. Thank you very much. These books are a collection of monographs. They are bilingual, all of them with contemporary Portuguese photographers, and they are all published by Imprensa Nacional Casa da Moeda. This is a work I'm doing for the last 6 years. And this series, they try to contribute to the knowledge or to a better knowledge of Portuguese contemporary photography, and to lead this knowledge to a more broader audience. But before of that, I want to make a brief history of other collection of photo books that were really important and before of the ones that we present here. In 1976, it was the first collection launched in the USA, and this one was the one who created the canon of international photography in a way. Some years later, Photoposh, this is I could say the most important collection of photo books in Europe, and also like that one, the only one who has a public institution behind. Fotobolsillo is the one launched in Spain in '98. First, they start just as a collection of Spanish photographers, but then they open to Latin American photographers and then to African photographers. And now they have more than 100 titles published already. Fototorst, it's also a really good collection of photography books that shows the Czech Republic canon of photography. They launched in 2000, and they're still running with amazing work. And Faden 55, it's also an interesting collection. They launched in the UK in 2001. And they try with this collection to show the work of a photographer just in 55 images. So hard work. And we arrive here on the case study I brought today, Série PH series, edited by Imprensa Nacional. And we already published 6 issues, 6 numbers. Jorge Mulder, Paulo Nozolino with an essay from Sérgio Má, Helena Almeida with an essay from Delfim Sardo, Fernando Lemos, João Manuel Rodrigues, and last month we launched Ernesto Souza. For every book, we research, we do lots of studio visits and archives, and there's a big work of researching on the archives of each one of these photographers. For example, for the last book, I saw more than 5,000 negatives, just to present 100, for example, or around 100 images on the book. But before of the work for each book, there was a huge research on contemporary photography and also on the editorial research to know what was the kind of the work that they were done in other countries. And in 2015, I present this creative concept of PH series. Each book has a photographer, has an inedit essay, bilingual, and try to have a graphic coherence of all the collection. Although we try to keep the identity of each of one of these photographers, and of course I bring the prize here because we try to with this prize to lead and to take photography to another audience. This is the 6 numbers published, and one of the goals of this collection is also to take the Portuguese collection photography abroad, and we already have some reviews from directors of other photography museums or directors of festivals, and also from some Portuguese journalists who gave us also these. Comments you can read here. And so I kept on my 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Joana, thank you very much, and I'm particularly pleased now to introduce to you Maria Gabriel, Commissioner for Youth, Culture, Research, Innovation and Education. Yesterday we had here President Ursula von der Leyen for the signature of the Recovery Fund. Today we have Commissioner Maria Gabriel for this unique venture. I believe, unfortunately, you lost the most interesting part, was to listen to 11 excellent case studies from all over Europe, from Germany, the Netherlands, Spain, France, but also a number of Portuguese case studies from dance to music, sounds, textiles, but also porch engineering. And actually it was particularly interesting to look at this utopia idea of European creativity. Actually, we start with Fátima Vieira addressing us with the idea of an European cultural corridor that you have listened already in Porto a few weeks ago. And actually, she started with the idea, what if? And I will raise the question, what if C.P. Snow was here? As you know, C.P. Snow, a very well-known British novelist, wrote about 60 years ago, in 1959, the idea of two cultures, the humanities and the basic science, addressing very much this complex dialogue and by his words, an impossible dialogue. Actually, a few years later, in 1963, he reviewed that very original, but it has become a landmark in the debate on the different areas of knowledge. As I mentioned before, we also commemorate this year 450 years of the fight against Inquisition and of a number of European intellectuals like Francisco de Holanda, that I have the book here, Erasmus de Rotterdam, and many others, which brought to us the idea of a humanitarian culture without limits. And actually, today, Rui Horta, among many others, brought the idea that it's through the arts that we bring small people to become large people. And essentially, it was very interesting along these case studies, how is this conflicting but very enthusiastic debate about the arts, the science, and industry. And in fact, it was very clear that CP Snow is not true in the two culture, and that there is this possibility of fusion. And actually, we have also listened to Paula Tavares to present exactly a project on fusion of these ideas from scientific knowledge, the artistic knowledge, and the industrial attitude. And it was interesting that around the audience we have artists, entrepreneurs, engineers, and in a complex, very complex issue, from, as Simão was discussing, from the non-commercial purpose of creative arts to the need of a compensation in industry, but with all the time the core in art. So my suggestion now, to try to go further, is to mix these two sessions. We will have a number of people to help us in this debate, and then we will close with the presentation of artwork which has been developed by Rui Costa for this purpose, and also the launching of the Lisbon Manifesto on citizen-centered, research-driven creative industries. But to introduce this policy debate, I would like to invite Christian from the European Parliament point of view. He has been so enthusiastic in defending and promoting Horizon Europe, but also within Horizon Europe creative industry, and Christian has been at an European level leading very much these debates, also with the European Culture and Creative Industries Alliance, but also the Creative Industry Business Network, among many others, and he has become very, very important also in co-organizing this event and brought so many different speakers. Christian, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, I mean, congratulations. What you're doing is amazing. And what's even more important, and might be encouraging of you, what you had been doing over the last 3-4 years is self-empowering. What you did, actually, I mean, we in the Parliament, on the Council side, on the Commission, we depend on reactions in society and movements in society of a kind of European dialogue. And over 5 years in the Parliament, together with the other institution, we had that dialogue with you. And impressively, you made clear not just your importance, and as you rightly had been saying, it is not the balance between what is economically viable, what is impressive in figures. I mean, you're employing more young people in Europe than any other business. You're 5% of the GDP. But we didn't just in politics get the figures right. I think we understood the potential and the challenges. What are the challenges? The challenges you have seen in the copyright debate, practically, where the American platforms, the distribution, the money collecting power of the world does understand how important content is. And it is a global fight about content. And you can see that. What is the valuation of content? Is it with distribution, or is it with the creator? And that is a global fight we were fighting as Europe. And I think on copyright, quite successful. The second challenge is, from my point of view, is the freedom of expression. I mean, you're representing much more than just the national manifestations of democracy or the European idea of democracy. I mean, inherent in the creative industry is the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression. It is per se, I think, emblematic for the European idea. And to set that in the center, yet again, of the European discussion has a lot to do about what is our vision, how our societies will develop, and, to be honest, how to protect democracy and how to protect the European idea. Thirdly, from my point of view, what is important is we talk about a lot of new dimensions in terms of challenges. We want to digitalize Europe. We want to decarbonize Europe. But a lot of this is related to dystopias. I mean, if you talk about CO2 reduction, the dystopia is, whatever, the end of the world, what 14 years are going on the streets on, but it is a dystopia. So we are doing a lot of things because we do fear something. And I think we won't be successful if we not transfer the dystopia into an utopia. So how to do that? What is the role of creativity? And is it just a role where we say, oh yeah, you have to play this role? No, but creativity translates things into people's minds. It creates acceptance. It creates, it creates an utopia. And I think recent ideas, for example, about the new Bauhaus, taking that up, understanding that we can't fight the climate change if our argument is a defensive one, a negative one, a dystopia. You can create with products, ideas, you can create a social discussion, you can have an impact locally in a way that we're changing that from a dystopia to an utopia. The same with the digital dimension. I think that a lot of what we talk about disruptive innovation has not so much just to do with technology, it is how technology is transferred into something disruptive, positive for society. And I think that is also something which is a challenge, but also something we trust on you, and more or less we'll depend on you. So I think today what you're going to see is, yes, I said that in the beginning, appreciation of all what you had been doing. It is an encouraging for that kind of self-empowering that you play your role in that kind of European discourse on the future of Europe, which is needed. But we see you as also economically and then quite bluntly as the European USP. If we talk about disruptive innovation, for example, we often talk about disruptive business models. But what we see more and more in science is that disruptive innovation is stipulated by this kind of transferability of the creative industry. You can translate that into a kind of positive aspect in human beings' life. You can change a technology, which is simply a technology, into a positive lifestyle, a positive attitude, a contribution to health, well-being, intellectual challenges. And so what we want to show you is this kind of common effort of today with that manifesto. And I would really like to thank Maria Gabriel, who, and I might say that beyond being an important power woman in Europe and sitting on a lot of money, has this intrinsic motivation on that one. It is not just part of the discourse on a €100 billion research program. I think there is an intrinsic interest that you can stipulate a lot of things we might not reach with just spending money on innovation or on science or on technology. And I would specifically thank Manuel Heitor, because, I mean, in the council is sitting a lot of research ministers looking at saying, culture? Is that really related to our innovation on our quantum things? I mean, if you look to, interestingly, the gentleman who might lead the European Quantum Initiative, Professor Calarco, an Italian-German professor, one of the leading experts of quantum, he started as an artist, as a linguist, and then from there he went into quantum sciences. And not that we want to change dancer into scientists, or we see that just as a functionality. I think we are willing with this program also to strike the balance between the arts and the importance of the arts itself, the cultural heritage and the importance of to preserve the cultural heritage. But we want to keep it out of the silos. We want to communicate. We want to establish a cloud, a science cloud, a collaborative cloud for all the archives and museums of Europe. But not just the technicality, we want to create access, exchange, new ways to perceive things, and to transfer cultural heritage into the future, to small and medium-sized companies, to skilled people who, looking back, what we would be able to do in the past, but might not be even able to do today, but also transfer that into other sectors. And so from my point of view and from the point of the Parliament, we took it up. I mean, for once, and I see the suspicion in your eyes if overweighted, over 50-year-old politicians talk about ambition, the future, and so. But I think we understood. What we are doing today is not that we refer to what we want to do. We decided that this is one important part, the biggest raise of budget in the history of the European Research Programme in one term. It is important. You're in the center of importance, and we appreciate that, and we want now to get in a conversation with you how to do. And it's not a top-down approach. It is a needed conversation between you and us, and what we can do with the programs we have in hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Christian. So now we have also a number of brief policy statements, and I will start with Bern Fezel, Managing Director for European Creative Business Network. Bern is located in Germany. Bern, please.
Much. Dear Minister, dear Commissioner, Christian, thanks for welcoming and inviting me. So I'm speaking about where are we now, where did we go to, and what do we need to do for this? So if you go to the next slide, please. Where are we now? If you look back 20 years, the innovations in creative industries were defined as hidden innovation. The first report of the European Union on the economy of culture was published in 2007, commissioned by President Barroso. And from there on, the success of the creative industries was more and more visible. It was there already over almost hundreds of years, because writing books and printing art has been done. But maybe the biggest figure to symbolize how much creative industries is by now mainstream is that 2.9 billion citizens are active every day in culture. And what is this? It is just one symbol. It is the gaming. Everybody is gaming, and it's 2.9 billion citizens. So now having the idea to introduce citizen in the field of creative industries as a driver is really intriguing, and I think we are at a really transformative point of time doing this. We heard today that art and tech, science and industry is coming together, and it's not without conflict, but it's driving us forward. Exactly those emerging topics at the edges of the sectors. And it's all coming out of a pandemic. And if you look back into history, this has been the case already at the Renaissance. So I really believe we have to be blunt about this. This is nothing less than a new European Renaissance in the making. We are at that point exactly. Next slide, please. In the history of policymaking for the creative industries, there has been decisive moments, and I just pick out a few. There has been the very first time in 2015, during the Latvian presidency, that the spillover effects were introduced on the Commission level. If you look into the coherent policy document of the European Parliament, you had for the very first time this idea you need cross-sectorial innovations, but also government needs to work together beyond their own departments. It's the Research, Education and Business Department collaborating and introducing the intergroup in the European Parliament, I think was a genius step, which was also facilitated by Christian Ehler, enabling all this here, and is a symbol, I think, what many city parliaments, regional parliaments and national parliaments still have to do. And here is the next step, really inducing the idea of the citizen into the ecosystem of innovation and the creative industries. Why is this such a paradigm shift? Well, we heard it today, and we just have to remind ourselves in a nutshell. Art is driven by artistic autonomy, not citizen. Research and science are driven by scientists necessarily looking far ahead for new scientific discoveries, not looking necessarily at citizens. So now introducing the citizen dimension is really a step also of understanding innovation differently. Next slide, please. Now, what happens if you look into innovations which are citizen-driven and citizen-focused? What if buildings at the same time flood protection, where people live and have a service? The next slide, I just pick another example. What if user interface design? You have 190 billion apps, 190 billion apps downloaded every year. Just imagine those apps are citizen-focused and not just service or economically focused. So this is a vast capacity of the creative industries to improve the life of citizens. Next slide. Here you see that the citizen-centered innovation. Now, to go forward, what do we do next? It's really a new kind of cross-innovation. And we need new bridges between our sectors, just as I showed, user interface, to combine the autonomy and excellence and the freedom of expression with the citizen focus. So there are new bridges to be built to do this. One example we are very well aware of, it's now the new movement, the new European Bauhaus, and the European tradition the European Union has a great tradition in civil society dialogues. But I also believe that industry themselves can build bridges to citizens and to policy. One example is the European Innovation Platform by ECHA, which has just been launched. I think it's also a new bridge, a new public-private partnership. So this is the 3 steps. Where are we now? The new Renaissance paradigm shift by inducing citizen and building new bridges. And I have to say at the very end, thanks again for Christian Ehler. We have met some 10 years ago, and since then he's really a beacon driving forward not only creative industries, yes, but also innovation in policy. And I think that's a great thing to do. So thank you for having me.
Bern, thank you so much for your intervention and the way you put us also with history. Certainly this citizen-driven approach will require this challenge of bringing the local dimension and the global nature of research. But above all, that is richness of being European and to understand this diversity. Let me pass the word to Catherine Magne. Catherine is the Deputy Director of the Head of Unit of Cultural Policy at the European Commission. Catherine, please, s'il vous plaît.
Merci beaucoup. Good afternoon, Minister. I hope you can hear me okay. Yes?
Yes, yes.
Merci. Yes, okay. I wanted to say, Minister, that I saw that my commissioner arrived, Mrs. Gabriel. So maybe, I don't know how you want to run this. I mean, you have the real decision maker, the commissioner, with you. Maybe it's more appropriate that she is the one talking. I need your guidance on how best to proceed.
Please go ahead. Maria Gabriela is very happy to listen to you. We need to give space to everyone. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Well, I wanted to say that today I felt privileged, really. I felt privileged by listening to the whole debate and the whole afternoon. Not only was the atmosphere extremely friendly, you could really feel a community of minds around the table, but also the example we heard of concrete realization, concrete partnerships were extremely inspiring. And we had around the table engaged and engaging scientists, engaged and engaging artists. And really, I will take that back with me for a long time. And this is the kind of exchange that help us, continue and inspire our work despite sometimes some difficulties. Now, the messages that we heard today were very powerful. What did we hear? That for Europe to innovate, we need to build bridges and abolish silos between sciences and arts. And we also heard that we need European cultural corridors. That's part of your manifesto. So, I mean, you will hear my commissioner. She is the one who's making, who's forging the way ahead, and she will tell you much better than I can how much the Commission believes that indeed that's the way forward. We indeed are deeply convinced that the cultural and creative industries have a role to play for Europe, for the economy. I mean, many speakers have reminded how many jobs and contribution to the GDP the cultural and creativities bring. But they are also important for innovation. That's the whole purpose of the seminar. But also, I really want to underline for social cohesion, for us to be closer together, for our well-being and for our mental health. And really, if we needed another demonstration, we had this worldwide live demonstration during the pandemic. Who could have survived without books, music, recorded films, and also singing from balconies? So really, we should never lose that from sight. It's our identity, it's the economy, but it's also our mental health. Now, again, the commissioner is the driving force behind everything I'm going to say now. But we have good news, and we've been working very hard to get those good news. And what are they? Well, first, we have the Creative Europe program, which has an increased budget of 60%, so much more money than foreseen. And that was also thanks, of course, to the Parliament, who fought this battle with us. And we've seen today one of the projects that was presented. It was one of the first one, the Fusion project was funded by Creative Europe. Then we have, thanks to the Commissioner, a much bigger budget on Horizon Europe, with, for the first time ever, a cluster on culture and inclusive society. Then another innovation, we will have a knowledge innovation community, the so-called KIC, and Martin Kerr is with us today, the director of the EIT, who is going to implement that. So I won't say much because he will say that much better than I will. Then President von der Leyen, with the support of Commissioner Gabriel and the Commissioner Ferreira for regional policies, has launched a really, truly new project called the New European Bauhaus. Of course, you know that, but where, again, we are trying to break silos and go beyond disciplines to forge a new way of thinking, a new way to approach aesthetics, affordability, and sustainability, the Green Deal. And finally, last summer, we had a very special call, when we were really trying very, very hard to see how we could help the sector, which has been so affected by the crisis. So we had a very special call, an extraordinary call under Erasmus+, focusing on creativity with schools, educators. We scrapped every single drawer we could find, and we finally managed to put together 100 million euros, because all that was not planned, of course, like the pandemic was not planned. And we managed to put this call together, and it was a huge success. We got 4,000 answers, 4,000 proposals for this call on creativity, linking artists and creators with schools in the education system, which is very much what is needed, as was pointed out by several speakers today. So to sum up and to finish, we very much share what was said today. We've managed, thanks to the Commissioner, the Parliament, and to devote more money to all these programs which can support culture and the bridges between culture and science and education. We have new products, the KIC, the NEB, to speak with acronyms, the New European Bauhaus, and those new products, if I may speak like that, or those new entities, are transdisciplinary. And I think that's the whole purpose of your seminar today, to bridge, to go beyond silos. So I think I should stop here. You will hear it much better later. But we do believe in a truly innovative Europe, and in which not only we break silos, but creators and researchers, that was also mentioned today, have decent working conditions. And I will finish with that. That's also something we are working on, the working conditions of artists. That's also something the Parliament works on. So we did a study, we are exchanging with the Parliament, and we will have an expert group with member states to share good practices in that respect very soon. I thank you for your attention. And very modestly, you know, my commissioner will say that.
Catherine, merci
Much
beaucoup.
better later.
Merci beaucoup pour votre participation. And now we move to Florian Druck, CEO of the German Music Industry Association, to share his thoughts with us also for these brief policy debates. Florian, please. We are not listening to you. So while the technicians, yes? While the technicians are trying to solve this, I suggest we pass to Martin Kerr. Martin is the director of the European Institute of Technology, and as you know, earlier this year, the Commission, the Parliament, and the Council has approved a new regulatory framework for the European Institute of Technology, including its future openness, but also the consideration of a new knowledge-integrated community on creative industries and culture. Martin, please.
Thank you, Minister Heitor, Christian Ehler, Commissioner Gabriel. Good afternoon, and many thanks for this opportunity to present the EIT's contribution to strengthen the innovation capacity of the cultural and creative sectors and industry in Europe, in particular through this opportunity provided under the new Horizon Europe program of creating a knowledge and innovation community. So the EIT, as a reminder, started its operations around 10 years ago, and the background of an economic crisis with the aim to support entrepreneurship and innovation in Europe. And I believe has done so successfully since then by not only creating Europe's largest innovation ecosystem, but also by delivering very concrete results. As an example, only a week ago, a startup that's EIT supported in the very early days, a company called Northvolt from Sweden, setting out to produce the world's greenest batteries, attracted a further 2.75 billion euros of investment, and is not only making a major contribution to a green transition, but also create thousands of jobs in Europe. And that has been, in part at least, for the EIT support very, very early on through its ecosystem. And that is really what is unique about the EIT, that we tackle societal challenges, but do so in a holistic approach, involving a whole innovation ecosystem and the whole innovation chain, from the education part to the research, and then bringing that research to the market and turning it into concrete solutions. Now, 10 years later, we come again out of an economic crisis due to the pandemic. And I think creating a knowledge and innovation community for culture and creative sectors and industry is a huge opportunity twofold, not only to help this sector, which has been extremely hard hit, and of course was an excellent presentations today, which I would like to thank for being able to listen to, and case studies. So it's an excellent opportunity to help to come out of the difficult situation that sector is in, but even more so, huge opportunities for business creation, entrepreneurship, education, and innovation capacity building in this sector to overcome what is often in Europe still too much fragmentation. So too much of a national approach and not enough pan-European cooperation, which ultimately will be an opportunity to exchange ideas and also to turn these ideas into concrete innovations and solutions. And that's what the EIT stands for. And that's what the model which we have developed and sophisticated in the last 10 years really allows to do. So we believe it's a fantastic match that now we can create a knowledge and innovation community in this field that will complement the other initiatives, such as the one that Catherine mentioned, the Creative Europe, the other programs in the higher education field, and of course, everything happening under Horizon Europe as a whole. Now, at EIT, we've been already very, very busy to actually prepare for the launch of this new knowledge and innovation community. And that's really what I want to share with you, to draw your attention to this. We have been at full speed, developed a roadmap how to launch a call for this new community already this year in the end of October, and to make sure such a community can be designated and actually start working next summer. So that is very, very fast. We had, for example, a webinar in April where we shared with the sector more information about this, and the interest was enormous. We had over 3,000 people attending, so we believe it's not just an extremely timely initiative, but one which can really unleash a lot of positive momentum in this sector in Europe. So we can't wait to get started. As a next stage, we will also release the criteria and more details about how the EIT model functions, so that everyone in the sector can prepare for the call when it comes out in October. And of course, we would then like to encourage everyone to take part in that, and count very much on all of you today that are participating here to spread the word. We have also put up a networking tool on our website where those who are interested can get more information, but also potentially find partners to participate in this call. So I'm extremely happy also to see that this opportunity is acknowledged as part of the Lisbon Manifesto, and I really look forward to work with you in the future and to unleash the power of creativity in Europe. Thank you,
Martin.
very much.
Thank you so much, and also to keep time short. I will pass back to Florian, and again I would like to ask you to be very short in time, because we should close by 5 and we definitely need to listen to Commissioner Maria Gabriel. Martin, please. I apologize for the previous failure.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Oh, wonderful. So I make it very short. Dear Commissioner Gabriel, dear Minister Aito, dear Christian Ehler, muy obrigado for having me here. A great, inspiring conference. Speaking for the German music industry, fourth biggest in the world, I can just make the following remarks, introducing that Bernd Fesel mentioned the relevance of the citizens. The citizens are the fans, and our partners are the artists. So that's how we work as an industry. And first of all, I can tell you that we believe in a highly competitive market, especially in the online world, where our industry is very present, very active, and where we lived what Christian Ehler rightly mentioned, the disruption of the whole environment, the disruption of creation, the disruption of distribution, and the disruption also of consumption, where the citizens come back into the game. So therefore, the European undertakings for strengthening the digital single market are for us of utmost importance. That is a very, very strong point for us. And secondly, I can say that we are practically never funded by public means. So we're making money and investing money for cultural diversity, which brings us also to an issue mentioned, that we need robust frameworks for our business. That's also one aspect where the European Union is very, very strongly working on. So it is very impressive to see how consequent the European Union is approaching the sector, and not only the importance in the markets, not only the economic role, it's also the cultural role which comes to play. And it is very impressive to see how consequent, also with regards to the research and innovation strategy, the EU is doing so. So I know we don't have the time, so I might just finish with a what if question of Professor Vieira, and I would ask myself, what if my home country, Germany, I'm coming here from Berlin to you, what if my home country would only care 20%, let's say 20% of what the EU cares about the creative industries? What could we all achieve? And that would be maybe just my last point. Thank you very much for having me, and all the best for this project, great project.
Thank you very much, Florian. I believe that what if can be said all over our places, and we understand within this table, and that is the reason why of this manifesto is a citizen-driven approach, because that is our ultimate goal. Before handing over to Commissioner Maria Gabriel the manifesto, as you know, we have with us an artist, Rui Costa, and Rui actually was a scientist and then became an artist, but I'm not sure if he is here as a former scientist or a current artist. Most important is a person very much devoted to promote also creative industries. And Rui, actually, we met many years ago while he was also a scientific activist. And I believe this call in this conference is always to call scientists, artists, politicians, entrepreneurs to become activists towards a collective action in this regard for the European culture and this idea of what if all of us understand the role of art and science in the industry together. Actually, Rui has produced a piece of art, a work of art, and actually we will have the opportunity to give to all of you one of his originals, but I will ask Rui to go to the floor and present this piece of art while our colleagues will distribute the piece of art to all of us. Why not you speak there? Não, traz as gravuras.
Hello. Thank you very much for this amazing session. Thank you, Minister, for inviting me and for being here. It has been a truly inspiring session. And I'm here, I don't know exactly in which role. I was indeed a researcher and a scientist until a moment in my life, and then changed into becoming a full-time artist. Actually, while training as a researcher, I was studying arts as well in Arco, a school that has an amazing role here in Portugal and should be and work as an example elsewhere in the world. But here today, I think I'm basically trying to speak a little about a piece of work I did, or a set of works I did, as part of the celebration of the 25th anniversary of the Ministry of Science, Technology and Education here in Portugal. So it was a big landmark last year, so it was this 25th anniversary. And Manuel Heitor invited me to think about of conceptualizing a work that could represent this contribution that was really groundbreaking in Portugal. 25 years ago was just now, and so he invited me to work under these premises, and I basically started by a set of works I have in the past called Lifeline series. It's basically a set of works that kind of goes back to drawing in its most basic and simplest form. And I think it's pretty much something I take back from my background as a researcher and my training as a researcher. So if you have an issue, a question, something that you are interested in, it's especially important to try to simplify and make the questions in a very simple form. And so I basically started this series of work called Lifeline series as the most basic form of drawing. So if you think about drawing, it's like this triangle where you have an agent, you can call it an artist, you have a tool, and you have a support. And this was the case, and it's the case now, and it was the case back in the caves 20, 30,000 years ago. It was the same triangle between these three elements. You have something, through a tool, expressing something into a support. And I thought about this set of works going back to the simplest form of drawing, which is basically a gesture, a line that can be drawn in a support. And I think, well, it's relatively something that we can eventually discuss, whether a straight line is the simplest form of a line. But for this set of drawings, I decided to work around this idea of straight lines. And basically the premise of all these works is basically drawing lines, straight lines, using a tool, a pen, that draws the thinnest line you can draw. It's a point 15 millimeters, so a sixth of a millimeter. Basically, a line in itself is almost invisible. You can't really make much out of a line, but from the group of lines, then something comes out. And it's a line that it's drawn by hand, one after the other, in a process that I think has a lot to do with research and what science and basic science involves. It's like tough, repetitive, dedicated work, hours, time over time, and to generate something that can be completely relevant, you need to put a lot of effort into it, and you can't really get into that without that serious work and that serious effort put into it. And so basically, when we leave on the right-hand side, we have a few of the studies I did initially, on a smaller scale. This set of works, basically, they are extremely time-consuming. These are lines drawn line by line. Some of the drawings can take 3 months to be completed. So it's a really painful process, a creative in a way. So it's really creative, the equation point of view, so creating the parameters in which the drawing takes place. Executing the drawing, it's quite the opposite of what we think it's the creative process. It's just taking time to draw these lines over lines. And basically, for this set of works, there's again, maybe coming from my background as a researcher, it's like an equation where you have a bunch of parameters that are pretty well defined. One of the rules, or parameters, if you want to call it that way, is that these are straight lines. They are drawn with this slimmest line you can think of. And then there's a set of rules that make or compound the exercise. So the lines should be drawn as close to each other as possible, and they should avoid touching each other. So this creates this tension in which the lines try to be as close to each other without really making a connection. This creates this contradiction that then results like in a tension. For the specific work developed here for the initiative of 25th anniversary of the Ministry of Science, I basically add 2 more parameters to the equation. So the idea of transversality as a diagonal that represents science, and science basically touches and connects to every single element in our lives, which was something that was pretty divergent from the previous work, this idea of a diagonal, and also the idea of a blade, like something that cuts, separates knowledge from ignorance, for instance. And so that's pretty much the underlying ideas of the set of works I did for this context. And going back to this session, just to tell you a couple of quick ideas. We have been listening, and it has been truly inspiring, this idea that science and art must reinforce this collaboration. We tend to see, or culturally as a society, we tend to see creativity more associated with art, knowledge more associated with the most preeminent form of knowledge nowadays, like science. But these things must need to be interconnected. So creativity, it's definitely not something that is exclusive to an art form, the different art disciplines. It's truly something that exists in science. Same way, producing works of art in dance, music, visual arts, whatever, it's also a form of knowledge. And so we do need to bring these 2 things together in more depth. And we do need to look at this from the budget point of view. It is true that we talk about it in the sense that we need to bring these 2 things together. It is true that we need to bring a level of commitment from the society point of view that looks at these 2 things as something that should come together. Also from a point of view that we invest in them in ways that are reflective of this idea. Thank you very much.
Rui, thank you so much. So now, wait there. I will invite Maria Gabriel and Christian to go there so that you can give the
I stay with my mask. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Interesting.
Christian, come here, come here. So now is our time to handle the you from the Parliament and myself from the
from both sides.
From both sides. We have the handling of the Lisbon Manifesto.
We can do it like that?
Yeah.
So now it's
Where we are
unavoidable.
Okay, first here and here. Good.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much.
Christian, please sit there.
I have to. Well, first of all, thank you very much. I'm sure that I will always remember this important moment, because I really hope that everyone here in this room is aware that that is a crucial moment that we are living. Because Christian, I know you since 2009, and I have seen how with the years we are quite in a different situation from 2009 when we talk about cultural and creative industries and sectors. And that's an amazing result to your efforts, to your engagement, always to have this topic at the top of our agenda. Now, there is a change somehow. Thank you, Minister Heitor, dear Manuel, for bringing together culture, research, and innovation. Now our next task, it will be really to organize a joint ministerial meeting. That was never happened before between the Ministers of Culture and the Ministers of Research and Innovation. And I hope that we'll be able to convince our Ministers of Finance too, because I think that we have to change and to innovate some of our ways to do in order to convince them since the beginning that we are not only talking about the value of cultural and creative sectors for us as a society, for us as Europeans, for us as economy. We need really here to affirm our leadership in this, because we have talented people, because we have strengths, and it's really time in this new world with green and digital transitions to show that we can lead by example. So I would like really to say thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor for me to be together with you today. Today, all the day was dedicated to the new Creative Europe program. I will not repeat what was already said by Catherine, 60% of increase of the budget, good news, sectoral support. Some new elements, I would like to bring to your attention the importance of the creative innovative labs. It's something that we need to promote. For me, what was important with the new Creative Europe program, it's the three main messages. First, we have our support. Second, we need to build bridges between the different sectors and between the different instruments and policies. And of course, we need finally not only to talk about ecosystem, we need to build, to work, and to act as wishing to see this ecosystem of the cultural and creative industries and sectors growing. And I think that that's why we need so much innovation and research. So for me, there is one other important lesson from the COVID-19. It's true that we cannot live without culture and creativity. But for me, what was important and clear is that our traditional support, it's important, but it's not enough, especially if you would like to project ourselves in the future. And that's why I very much welcome this initiative. First, because it expresses the need to look at the sector from a different angle, focusing on the research and innovation dimensions, keeping in mind that citizens always have to be at the center. And second, because this initiative shows the need to share with the sector the new instruments at their disposal and somehow to force us to look for other kinds of supports. And here we have novelties. I would like again to stress them, but maybe the most important for me is now how we'll answer to the different questions that those novelties are raising. Yes, we have two main novelties. New cluster on culture, creativity within Horizon Europe program. It's a very strong signal, very strong support. Thank you very much, Christian, because we have to say it. Without Christian Eller and the support of the European Parliament, that was just not possible to achieve this result. So now we know that next week, 22nd of June, we'll publish the first calls. We have until 7th of September to prepare the new projects. My question is how we'll fulfill this new cluster with content, which is adequate for you, that will help you, and that will be here not to repeat some of the errors of the past. And we have real hard work ahead of us. The second new element is the new kick on cultural and creative sectors. Dear Martin, we have listened that now we have a little bit of time by October, November, in order to publish the annexes and the text. I have one plea. Don't work with the usual suspects. Really, we need this time to open our partnerships, to see how people that are really talented, they know what's happened on the ground, they have clear vision. We need really to take them on board. And that's really my plea today. And in the manifesto, it's very clearly expressed too. Why I'm mentioning the cluster and the new kick? Because for me, together with the Innovation Labs and Creative Europe program, this triangle somehow will be the basis for the pan-European innovation ecosystem of the actors in the sector that you are calling for in the manifesto. And here again, I would like that I think that if you'd like to achieve some results, we need to do it in a co-creative spirit. Good thing, next week we'll have our Research and Innovation Days. First time we'll have a dedicated session on a creativity and culture-driven European innovation ecosystem. Thank you very much again for being so active. It's not a hazard, but I like that now, event after event, instruments by instruments, we start to obtain a critical mass. And that's why I bring to your attention all these, maybe when first look at these small elements, but for me, it's a part of a bigger picture. And precisely because there is a need to raise awareness of all these new instruments, new funding opportunities, needs of new partnerships, need to innovate, to exchange good practices, I'm really very glad to share with you that in September we'll be able to launch a new European platform where all the different fundings for cultural and creative sectors will be in one single entry point. I must say that was not easy to convince my own team to do it, because we identified 15, 16, 17 different sources, but I'm really convinced that not in all our regions and not in all our member states, not in all the sectors coming and representing the cultural and creative industries, they are aware of all these opportunities. So I'm really glad that here we'll have this single entry point. Of course, the importance is not only to talk about money. The importance is to see how these instruments will be helpful in order to achieve some of the main ambitions here in this manifesto. Allow me to share here some thoughts on the resilience and recovery facility plans, because I'm really pleased somehow to share with you that our preliminary analysis, I asked my team to start to follow this very closely since January. with all our member states. And now our first analysis is showing that we'll have around 9 billion euros dedicated to cultural and creative sectors. Never before we have seen that. You know that the call of the European Parliament, it was to have at least 2% in all our national plans dedicated to culture and creative sectors. We'll not achieve that for all our member states, but for the first time, we'll achieve it at European level. And I think that it's a very positive news. But immediately after is coming the real work. How to identify where is the critical mass of investments, good practices, that because we have other instruments at European level, we'll be able this time not only to build and to create an ecosystem dedicated to cultural creative sectors, but to continue together with them to create jobs and to affirm a European leadership in this field. So for me, all these instruments, all these examples are in parallel with some of the concrete initiatives that you are asking for and for that we are working for. First, the Cultural Heritage Cloud. Collaborative approaches to cultural heritage through digital platforms can, of course, promote knowledge exchange and enhance social cohesion and inclusion. And in this spirit, yes, preparations are ongoing for creating within Horizon Europe program a cultural heritage collaborative space for museums, including regional and smaller ones. And our ambition is to prepare an innovative coordination network on cultural heritage research and innovation activities. But again, we need your help, not to propose something which is not adequate to the needs of the sector. So don't hesitate. I was not there to listen to all the different examples, but I'm sure, Christian, that today we have a lot of inspiration that we can use as experience in order to make these first proposals coming from Horizon Europe something tangible and something useful for you. The second thing that I would like to bring to your attention, European Universities Alliances. 41 alliances, 208 universities, only one dedicated to arts, innovation, and cultural and creative sectors. We need you to sensibilize them and to be part of this journey. Because for me, it's sure that we need to have cultural and creative sectors in almost all our alliances, because every one of them is working for the regional development, for supporting young people, for creating business models with small and medium enterprises or with startups, building bridges and partnerships. I will be really very glad here to have something more. Because yes, we have the example of one of these alliances. I'm talking about Film EU. Its main objective is to implement a European University of Excellence focused on the fields of film and media arts, but we need something more. We need definitely something more concrete. Third, that I would like to bring to your attention is really to start to think more how we can work more closely with our regions. Now we have the new European Bauhaus. It's a great initiative, and together with Elisa Ferreira, we try really to do all our best. But I fully believe that we need really to have our regions more on board in this journey. That's why we have a joint action plan with the Committee of the Regions. But what was important for me again here is to discover, for example, that never before the mayors of the European capitals of culture and the mayors of European capitals of innovation, they never met each other before. I organized a meeting. I created a platform. This platform now is open to all the other cities, mayors, small or big. I think that it will be crucial to see how together with them we can join forces. And finally, what I would like to share with you is, of course, about the European Bauhaus. I must say that now we have a lot of contribution, more than 1,400, I'm really proud to say that more than 50% are coming from cultural and creative sectors. But let's continue to pay attention about the next stage of this initiative. The co-design phase is important, but the delivery, for me, it's more important. That's why we are talking now about 5 lighthouse demonstrators. Why not one of them on cultural and creative industries and sectors? It's not easy. We need to be more precise. We need to innovate. But I'm sure that if we take this as a challenge and after to show this as an example, will inspire a lot of other people to support us. So thank you. Thank you very much for the Lisbon Manifesto. I really take good note on your request to set up a cultural heritage partnership, as well as promote a dedicated call on a coordination and support action, promoting a pan-European ecosystem focused on the innovative solutions of the sector. We'll look into it. From my side, I will not only look into it, I will do all my best to realize them. But one thing is clear. This event for me represents a key moment. I don't want to say a starting point, because the starting point is now from more than 10 years. But it's true that this is another moment that is giving us impetus, a new pace that will be up to us to seize this momentum. I think that we'll have it, and we can do it only if we continue to work together, like during this conference, with innovation, with examples, with clear wish, not only to see and to look at the same direction, but to use the contribution of every one of us to express our common responsibility to have this time more and better results. Thank you very much.